It's a Friday and it's the last working day of the week. It's now time for the news here on the AM show. My name is Pakwisi Shandov. To a very first story, Member of Parliament for the Domikwa-Benya constituency, Sarah Adjosafo, has disclosed that she has not been served any notice to appear before Parliament's Privileges Committee. In an exclusive interview on JoyNews, The Pulse on Thursday, the gender minister, who is still not in the country, said she's out of Ghana because she has to handle some family issues. She said the first time she heard about any such meeting was through her interview on the channel.
I've been a deputy leader of Ghana's parliament, and I know the rules, and I know that the Privileges Committee wants me to be in parliament. But as we speak, I don't know that I've been invited. I have to be served, and I'm not aware that any such thing has been given to me. I'm just hearing it from you.
So all throughout the process, when it was announced even by the Speaker that you'd be facing the committee, no official document has come to, not even your office in Ghana, communicating that to you officially?
No.
So this would then mean that you will not be appearing before the committee?
As you can see, I'm here in the United States, and I don't know that I was supposed to. I mean, if the Speaker says that you've been referred, the committee has to sit and have its own modalities of how we're going to appear, when and how, the dates, what information they're requiring, and I don't think I have all that information as we speak right now.
And that's really surprising because just a few minutes ago we heard from Ricky Tegan, one of the members of the committee, stating that your schedule is next. So how come you've not been communicated to? Because he's quite sure that at least you are well informed about what the processes are and how the committee is going to go about its proceedings.
I'm just hearing it from you, and I got a message from my personal assistant that you guys wanted to talk to me about it. And that's why I showed up right now.
Now, according to her, although she's committed to President Akufo-Addo, her constituent, and her role as the gender minister, her family must come first, hence her continuous absence from Parliament.
Communication I have sent to His Excellency the President, and he's very much aware of what is happening to me and my family. And that's what I expect every Ghanaian to understand, that I am not intentionally abandoning my duties and my responsibilities. I have served the people of Ghana for 12 years. I entered politics when I was young, and I have done it. And there has not been any past record of me absenting myself like this. That should tell people that there's really something that ought to be done with family. And I know that you will put family first. So they should all start praying and keep praying for us. And I know with God, everything is possible, and we're going to pull through it.
I mean, everybody obviously would put family first, but that wasn't the narrative. Even from the likes of Kennedy Japan, who we understand is very close to you, these are persons who went out publicly to state that it appears you were intentionally refusing to show up in Parliament. In fact, they go on to give some chilling accounts of how, for instance, the Chief of Staff came to your office or your house just to personally plead with you to support your party. Why did you give up on the NPP?
I haven't given up on my party. I am still very loyal and committed to the party and to His Excellency the President. And I have had a record of the 2012 election petition from Domikwa-Benya. That is what landed all of us in power today. And I will be the last person to put that fight, that courage, and that record that I fought for into disrepute.
The Water Resources Commission has warned that illegal mining-induced pollution of the Bia and Tano rivers are assuming alarming proportions similar to levels that triggered outrage from neighboring Côte d'Ivoire in 2017. Executive Secretary of the Commission, Ben Ampoma, says that data available indicates disturbing turbidity levels of the two water bodies. Stakeholders at a two-day transformational dialogue organized by the University of Energy and Natural Resources in Sunyani have therefore called for action by government. Erastus Asaridonko reports.
These footages show a distressed, highly polluted Ofin, Enuru, and Tano rivers in the Ashanti and Western regions. The images drew sharp reactions from MP for Ahafo Southeast, Francis Menu Adabo, representative of the Bono Traditional Council, Nana Kofi Bediako, the Bono Regional Minister, Justina Owusu Banahene, and technical advisor to the Lands Minister, Ben Ayi.
When I see these things, I ask myself, who are behind this? Because we try to fight this cancer and it keeps going out. I can't buy excavator, but the ministers and the MPs, you can do that. So we are saying,
the implication of these artisan miners, and as we saw from the documentary, whether they have permit or they don't have permit, they both have no mercy upon our forest and our water resources.
Critical thing really is, we all have kept quiet. Fortunately, if we don't do something about it, it's going to destroy all of us.
The Water Resources Commission says Ghana is getting close to creating a rift with Côte d'Ivoire due to the increasing pollution of the Bia River, which flows through their treatment plants.
2017, our activities upstream, respect to mining, polluted the river to the extent that they could not treat the water. So they had to shut down their water supply systems. And that created some, what we hear, upheavals in terms of protests from the communities. And if you look at the turbidity values of the Bia, getting over to the thousands, which means that it has the potential to create that level of pollution where they may find it difficult to treat their waters. And it's our only hope that we can begin to, as it were, address the situation to prevent the situation where we may have that potential, transboundary conflicts.
The two-day dialogue is expected to come out with a communique on fresh solutions in the efficient management of small-scale or artisanal mining in the country. Professor Elvis Asare-Bediako is Vice-Chancellor of the University of Energy and Natural Resources, Sunyani.
The aim of this two-day transformational dialogue, therefore, is to present the opinions of various stakeholders on key issues in order to formulate shared goals and priorities and define the modalities that will enable a sustainable practice of the artisanal small-scale mining in Ghana and Africa.
Reporting for JoyNews, Erastus Asare-Donko, Bono Region.
Now, almost a week after the heavy rains hit Accra, some people are still counting their losses. Floodwaters are still receding from rooms, mattresses and furniture yet to dry, and food items are going bad at wages. Some residents are blaming a new development for their fates. There's more in the following reports.
Kweku Penyin has lived here at McCarthy South for the past 30 years. He tells me he has never seen this kind of flooding until a new development started behind them.
When it comes, look at the height, you see, where you see the height. Can you imagine? Then after that first rain, then second rain too, it happened on, I think on Sunday or Monday. Yes, that one too happened. You see, so it's a very big problem. Since when they started to feed this place, we talk. No. Midnight, sometimes midnight around 11, they started the trucks. They come around 10, 20 trucks. Nope. My brother, in fact, we are suffering. I do understand.
Auntie Sarah is a single mother of 4 and Kweku's landlady. She says the flooding increased as development grew rapidly in this area.
Look at how they just put the building. Why the land is... I don't know. It's because the water can't flow. No gutter. They've seized the gutter. Okay. And at first, when somebody is putting on the building here, and you go to the assembly, they will come and stop work. Okay. Then they will see how to do it. Because here, there's no demarcation. No gutter. They are put.
The Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, is asking governments to ensure rural communities receive the much-needed development as the country is on high alert against terrorist activities. The association believes this is one of the ways to prevent people, including teachers and school-going children, from falling prey to offerings from terrorist groups. More in this report as the National Security Ministry took its See Something, Say Something campaign to the NAT headquarters.
Tuesday, May 24, 2022, government launched an awareness campaign dubbed See Something, Say Something. The move was to put Ghanaians on high alert against terrorist activities. They have since been engaging stakeholders, the latest of which is the Ghana National Association of Teachers. Here is the National Coordinator for the National Security, Major General Retired Francis Edu Amanfo.
Indeed, teachers are the makers of a nation, hence they play a cardinal role in nation building and national development. Perhaps a deeper reflection of a country without teachers would give us a better appreciation of the importance of teachers. Implicitly, without teachers, the development of a nation's human capital will be non-existent, a situation which would lead to high literacy rate, high unemployment, and an unskilled and dysfunctional society. And certainly these are the core factors of national security, of stability of any nation. If we lack all of these, our nation stands to lose and stands at big risk. If we can preserve our peace and stability, we can be assured of an enabling environment so that you and I can go about our routine and normal duties with peace and tranquility.
President of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, Reverend Isaac Owusu, is asking government to provide rural communities with the needed social amenities.
I think it's very important for us as a nation to look at how we are distributing the national cake. In fact, if you take Ghana as a whole and looking at the distribution of the national cake, you could see that some people are not happy, especially if you look at those working within the deprived areas of this country. The social amenities are not there.
General Secretary of the association, Thomas Musa, says government must ensure the welfare of teachers and students to prevent them from being radicalized by the offers of terrorist groups.
You see, there is a scripture in the Bible saying that don't let me become poor so that I'll be tempted. So temptation is everywhere. Even in the Lord's Prayer, we say that lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Temptation is always with us and evil is always present. And the only way that we can help get our children protected is by providing them the basic necessities of life. So some things like feeding, the infrastructure, and things that will help them, basic things that will help them live their normal life, particularly in underserved communities. I believe that they should be provided, because if you don't do it, and an individual comes in to provide these things for them, certainly that particular individual can end up indoctrinating them, and whatever the person tells them, they will end up doing it, and that will not be safe for us.
Members of the general public are encouraged to report all suspicious activities to the National Security by dialing 999. For JoyNews, Michael Ashale.
Residents of Nyoli in the West district are relieved following the commissioning of a water project by Forward Development West Africa. The project will be replicated in 10 different communities in the Upper West and Savannah regions as well. Correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Nyoli.
Though rural water coverage in the Upper West region is pegged a little above 74%, there are still several communities in the region that are yet to have access to potable water. Some of these communities are located in outlandish areas and replete with thousands of residents. They compete with their animals at the streams and dams for water. The cruel reality, however, is that in some of the communities, the water table is low and the dams and streams dried up, forcing residents to go the extra mile for the precious commodity. Newly known in former times as Yipienebo, is one of such communities in the Wawes district where residents go through arduous times to get water. However, all will not be a thing of the past, as the community is one of 10 communities Forward Development West Africa, a private water utility service provider, has inaugurated a project to provide potable water for the Upper West and Savannah regions. The project, which is codenamed Numa Water Services, is valued at $700,000 and 25,000 people in the selected communities are to benefit within the two regions. Chief Executive Officer of Forward Development West Africa, Mato Hengen, noted that his outfit has successfully built 2 water towers, 3 public water kiosks, 40 standard household Numa pipe water connected to houses at Nwali community. He is therefore optimistic that the water systems will be expanded and the beneficiaries will move from 25,000 to cover about 100,000 people in the next 4 years.
At Water Forward, we will keep the water flowing. We will keep it safe. We will keep it reliable. We will keep it in your homes. We will continue to push for growth and expansion, serving 25,000 people this year in 3 communities, and serving over 100,000 people in the next 4 years through this project's expansion.
Under the project, water kiosks has been provided for commercial sale of water, and persons who wish to connect water to their homes pay a connection fee of 1,000 Ghana cedis. Upper West Regional Director of Forward Development West Africa, Ahmed Ekini, threw more light on it.
They used to fetch the water from the dam by tricycle, with drums, and come and deliver to him. And if you calculate the tricycle cost, the maintenance, and everything is of a higher cost than now that the water is connected to his home, the benefit of it and the cost-wise. And that applies in many places.
Member of Parliament for the Wawes constituency, Superintendent retired Peter Lanchene Tubu, described the project initiative as a big investment in the lives of the people.
$700,000 for 25,000 people will come down to $28 per person. $28 per person. It means that Forward Development is investing $28 per person for the Wawes communities that I've mentioned, Nwale, Poyentanga, and Ga to start with. You know what it means? What it means is that Forward Development is investing 60 pesos a day in the life of everybody consuming that water of that.
Wawes District Chief Executive Vade Durute commended Forward Development West Africa for the project, pledging the support of the Assembly to ensure that the project becomes a success.
I think they have come to supplement the government or the district assembly with the little resources that we have. Now that they have this water project sitting in Nwale here, if they are able to tap into the surrounding communities of Nwale, it therefore means that the other communities that don't have the privilege to have this facility, they are the community that the assembly will then be battling with to get them boreholes.
A colleague in the Boso North municipality, Vade Anap Akanterwe, can't wait for such an opportunity at a municipality.
When we get it, to solve our problem. And what we are going to do is we will engage them. When we go back home, when I go back home, I will engage them. I've taken their numbers. I will engage them. Maybe if they have time, they can come to the municipal assembly so that we'll have talks and see how best they can help us.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Nwale.
That'll be all for this morning's edition of the AM News. My name is Pakwisi Shandoff. Do stay tuned because the show continues with Benjamin Akapo.
All right, here we are Friday morning, and we're about to dig into the papers and share our thoughts on all that is happening so far. Wherever you are, thank you for connecting with us. Okay, so let's get into which papers do we have here today? The Daily Graphic, the Ghanaian Times Daily Guide, the Finder. We'll see about Ghanaian Publisher. We have Republic Press, and we also have, okay, so some of these other papers, but we'll get into each one of them, hopefully, before we round up. And we'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Let's quickly get into that. NPP regional elections, surprises await candidates. And this one is getting hotter and hotter, more and more interesting. It's the regional elections. Who's going to be chairman, general secretary, and more. And there are keen contests in some of those areas. I'm talking about the Ashanti region, where a certain chairman, Wuntumi, has dominated for a while. He is facing a stiff challenge in recent times. Well, let's get into it. NPP regional elections, surprises await candidates. Ashanti Central must-watch regions. And surprises are anticipated as the new patriotic party, that's the MPP, goes to the polls from today all the way to Sunday to elect regional executives. A lot of action is likely to go on in the Ashanti, Eastern, Bono, Central, and Greater Accra regions, where new entrants are seeking to unseat incumbents. This has brought in its wake anxiety, tension, and fear, which has gripped many of the party's faithful and candidates as the party goes to the crunch polls. Meanwhile, due to a last-minute injunction sought by 5 persons in the Akumfi constituency from a Cape Coast High Court to restrain organizers of the Central Regional Conference from holding the elections, the conference will not come off in that region. And the tension has been brought about by the fact that the identity of some of the delegates, especially those representing the Council of Elders of the party in the region, the TESCON representative, the 10 patrons in the region, are not known to some of the aspirants. So a lot of interest there beginning today as we prepare you all the way to Sunday when it comes to the new patriotic party's regional elections. And it's a matter we're going to be delving into this morning on the AM show. But let's quickly get into other stories. Special prosecutor investigates John's estate. That's on page 20. Let's take a look at it, shall we? Page 20. Where are you? Where are you? Ah, there you are. Okay, so the Office of the Special Prosecutor has started full investigations into alleged unlawful acquisitions of government land by a former chief executive of the Forestry Commission, Kwadwo Owusu-Afriyie, popularly known as Sir John. The special prosecutor, Kisia Jabeng, in a statement issued yesterday, indicated that the investigations would deal with suspected corruption and corruption-related offences in respect of alleged improper and unlawful acquisition of state property at the Achimota Forest Enclave and the Ramsar catchment at Sakumona in Accra by the late Sir John. Mr. Jabeng directed the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources to fully cooperate with the OSB in the investigations. Now, the investigations followed, of course, public uproar over a leaked will on social media that the late Forestry Commission boss had allegedly willed many acres of the Achimota Forest and the Ramsar area to his family members and others. Now, the issue which was carried on the airwaves some days ago had many Ghanaians questioning how the late Sir John could own state property and will them to his family members. And that is where we are, basically. Of course, we've also heard from the Lands Commission that has stated that, look, no land within this catchment area, or which is a forest reserve, can be willed by any person to any other person. But we await the details. If people have done it now, have others done it in the past? Are some people planning to do so again? Maybe not at Achimota, but in other forest reserves in the country? Is it true that some politicians are mining in forest reserves? Some people, the minority included, that is the minority in Parliament, have been calling for a thorough investigation, a commission to be set up, an inquiry into the matter. And that is where we are. Corruption Watch Ghana, Ghana Integrity Initiative, the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, the Africa Center for International Law and Accountability, ASILA, multimedia platforms, Joy FM, Adom FM, JoyNews, we've all petitioned the special prosecutor to investigate the acquisition of state land in the Achimota Forest and the Ramsar area in Sakumono. And by the way, when I mentioned Joy FM, Adom, JoyNews, and all of that, I wasn't just saying it. It's actually in the Daily Graphic. Yeah, and that is what it is. Anyway, so those stories there. Special prosecutor investigates Sir John's estate. Let me bring in a certain Samuel Kojo Brace. Did you bring the horn of anointing this morning?
I brought everything.
You brought everything?
Yeah, double in, double pack.
Because you, the name you bear, go round, you
Anointing
speak God's word, and am I a king in the making?
Oh, yeah, sure. Once you have
I am a king already.
Oh, yes.
The word says I am a priest, prophet, and king.
Yes.
So prophesy.
So I am anointing you forever, that you will be king of kings. But no, you are not like God.
Oh, no, no,
no. In the manly world, king of kings.
You know, someone said once on a lighter note that, you know, when you smoke and or weed and all of that, they said, no matter how high you get, you can never be like the most. So, and no matter whom your president is, God is still king.
Sure.
But when you said forever, I was shaken for a moment because I was wondering whether it was forever a la Sir John or, forever.
No, this is a different will. Forever, not the Sir John forever. Yeah.
But what are your quick thoughts? The latest dynamics when it comes to the special prosecutor and what he's saying about Sir John's estate.
Yeah, you know, we've had within this week the fact that he is a politically exposed person. Some of the people he willed to, Michael Owusu, so he's also a politically exposed person. And Sir John, aside the fact that he's a politically exposed person, was a public officer. And if you look at some of the things in there, then it's predisposed or pre-exposed. It tells us that the SP can come in here and find out how you acquired all of that. And so, it's right that he comes in at this time to look at it. A lot of Ghanaians have had a lot to say about this particular will since it came public. So the special prosecutor is doing his job as our prosecutor general.
What do you think about those who are saying a thorough investigation? Because you know why? I am sure, I think I've heard the likes of Martin Kpebu and others. I'm sure today it is Sir John. But I'm sure if we took a look back a bit, we might just snag some others who have also, in fact, who have willed part of our forest reserves out there, not just Achimota, and who may even be planning to do so. So, I mean, we should go into the past as well. This should be retrospective. People from erstwhile regimes, have they done the same? Are they complicit? Because if Sir John could do it, it means others may have done it, and on whose example he stood. And this, you know, sometimes I reflect, it's heartbreaking because, listen, the youth of this country, especially, are suffering in myriad ways.
Yeah, very much so.
You look at people out there, and I have so many friends. I know so many. It's grace, eh? Sometimes when you, because you have colleagues from back then who were first-class students and good, Charlie, when you see some of them today, in a system like ours. So all of that going on. Yet some people have cornered, a small percentage of people, cornered the wealth of the country. And
I would want the authorities, we must praise probably the lands minister for the sort of effort he's putting. Now he's requesting for all documents in relation to the forest. We need to understand which sort of reserve is he talking about. You know, we've been educated that even there's a hotel around that area, there's a Fiesta Royale or so. All of all of that is sitting on lands that previously used to be.
Gempa and other establishments are all sitting on.
So I wish that we go to the bottom to find out which reserve is he talking about. And then, like you said, let's go back to find out who and who, because we are hearing that when it comes to state lands, a lot more people have bought state lands.
Right.
So let us understand the magnitude.
What are the dynamics? And now they're even asking for the Owu family. Any people you've dealt with in the past, giving out any land for whatever purpose within that catchment area, let us know.
Sure.
Let us see, so we can get into it and
because
really
it is
find
right.
out what the dynamics are.
This is for all of us. It is not for a few people. So we need to understand how it's being managed. If people are deliberately cutting pieces of it and willing it onto themselves and their families, we need to understand and tell them it is not possible. You cannot do that because, look, that thing was taken in the name of Ghana. And all of us form that state called Ghana. So if any portion of that piece is going to go, we need to understand the basis upon which that is being given away.
Right.
If we are not made to understand, we cannot sit aloof and say it should go. We need to understand the mechanisms people went through, so that you and I, if we can also go about and say, okay, I also want a piece of it, because the processes are clear, then that's fine.
Right.
But if it's going to be done, in the dark, and then we'll all be surprised with someone's will coming out to say, okay, I've willed so and so acres to my nephew, my son.
I mean, let me play the devil here. Imagine this will, this last testament of Oswe Free Ampa, Sir John.
We're free.
Free property nina, free. Imagine if we had not known it, if we had not got wind of this last testament of Sir John.
We wouldn't have known.
People likely would have actually taken over some of these. And you see, we've done ourselves a great injustice in this country. The asset declaration regime in the past now is just bonkers. Look, there are people who have left university, tertiary education, I'll not mention NDC MPP, who left around the time we left, or slightly earlier. People who had never worked.
I'm getting where you are getting to.
Both MPP and NDC.
I'm going to get
people who never really did any work. Went into politics. They own buildings. They can do all kinds of things. You ask yourself, where did they get the money from?
And what do you have?
And of course, we are pegging it to your salary as whatever, whether a presidential staffer, a minister. But you see, we've tolerated it. And this is what happens. Look at the number of buildings acquired. I'm sorry, but yes, it's Sir John's case that has come up. So you don't speak ill of the dead, but the facts point to what we're talking about. Look at, within a short space of time, someone else would work in this country for donkey years after pension.
I've also heard people who argue that he's been a lawyer for 30 good years.
I think that is balderdash, a lot of horse feathers.
Okay. Why do you think so?
No. Are you looking at, so you look at when he assumed office and the string of what followed.
Okay.
It's not about before.
So those properties have data, because
Yes, because you look at 2017. Look at from 2017 and the acquisitions.
I was arguing with someone, and
I'm not saying that I am definitely. We can go into these.
Yes.
But no matter what, you look at what the person had acquired over his lifetime. He passed aged 62, 63, thereabouts. You look at what the person had acquired post this position. And then you look at everything else that, like a domino effect or spiral, right after they took office, and the sort of things. Why don't we question these things? And our leaders, you know what? I always say, all the parties ruling in the Fourth Republic, those are the ones that we've seen the most of. They are very selfish. Because some things are not working, but they'll keep it that way because it suits them. It suits them.
But I was having a discussion with a lawyer friend of mine. He was educating me that he doesn't think wills come with, like, I purchased this car this year and all of that. I don't know if you have any idea. You are a law student.
No. It's not necessarily. There are some situations which could necessitate, or if the person decides to mention. But I'm saying that in terms of some of the property acquired,
if you look at
the timelines, there are timelines.
It was those timelines that he was telling me we should be careful, because he doesn't believe it is true. But anyway, whatever it is, there are too much forests.
If it isn't true,
it won't come out.
Disprove us. Disprove whoever put it out.
As for the forest, no matter which time you bought it, nobody should be giving the reason.
Just to wrap, Parliament is broke. That's according to the Speaker. That's on page 16 of the paper. Parliament is broke.
But that's what this.
He says, with no money to run the business.
That's what the
House.
speaker is saying.
And he attributed the development to the delay by the Ministry of Finance to release the funds to Parliament.
Interesting.
Anyway, let's move on to other papers.
Let's check the Ghanaian Times. It says, on path to recovery from COVID-19, Ghana records 170,696 tourism arrivals, representing 72.5% growth over 2021's first quarter. President charges AFDB governors to help drive continental growth and development. Teachers must sensitize Ghanaians to terrorism threat. And playwright Lateef Abubakar tackles child trafficking labor with Christmas in May. So it's good news for our tourism sector that just about the time we are recovering, we are having some over 170,000 people coming to Ghana. That's good news there. It tells us that if we're able to develop our tourism sector well, there's much more revenue we can
I like the way you say if.
Oh, yes, sure.
We're sitting on a touristic gold mine as a country, everywhere in this country. There's this rock I recently discovered somewhere up north.
Okay.
It's shaped like Africa.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Okay.
it's like the map of Africa. There are so many other places, slave sites, remnants, and all of that. I always point to where Nkrumah used to take his rest, also somewhere up north. Whether for politics, whether out of, I'm sorry, stupidity, or whatever, we let these things go, forgetting that these are, you go to other countries and something really small, they monetize it, people are going to watch and pay. And
See, I have an extensive knowledge of, a little extensive of the Western region. There's a place in Wasa East called Domama Shrine. I mean, that's a place
called what?
Domama Shrine. How many people
Domama Shrine.
Shrine. How many people know?
Shrine.
Yes.
Okay.
Know of Domama Shrine. How many? And that's a place that if you go, look, there's peace. 3 rocks, and it's like a gate leading into a certain forest. And if it were to be
bring something out of you.
If it were to be another country, the way we would have developed that place. The former DC, who was my former boss, Wilson Arthur, developed it and tried to, he's a marketer, so he marketed the place to drive attention to that place. If Ghana could develop places like that, would be, look, I went to a place in my hometown called Butre. What? The coastline, the environment, the mountains. I mean, it's like a place where, and it's only whites who come there because the road is bad. So you and I will not afford to drive our...
So you see what he just said? Bad roads.
Leading to our tourist site.
No access to the place.
Yes.
Yet, even still, because another problem is that intra-tourism is very problematic. And it's also partly owing to the economic circumstances of most Ghanaians. I'm not saying just now, but most people don't even know certain places.
But even if...
How many people have been to even Paga?
But if the roads to some of, most of the tourist sites were better,
right,
we would have tried. I mean, 2 or 3 of us can use one person's car.
Yeah.
And we'll drive to those places.
We fuel the car, we go, have fun, come back.
But because the roads are terrible, it is difficult for you to drive your car through on the road to these places. So you realize that a few of them will come here, drive their big cars, go there and have fun. They know the value. Because when you go there, you are cut from the noise of the city.
Yeah.
So you are able to sit, think about life, and plan. But here we are, you and I will not try, because I've gone there thrice, but I told myself, no, I won't take my car there again because the road is terrible. I mean, we have to identify these places, and
we have to identify. It's not about identifying. We know them.
Okay. So
we know them.
So
every region. You see how you're doing it. Go to the MCs. We know them. The problem is the right thinking. Look, I always point to when I was in Cuba. Remember the embargo and everything. Even now, things are better. These people have maintained antique vehicles from the 50s and 60s and 70s running. Those are the very ones we would travel in, from Cienfuegos to La Habana and all of those. It's part of their tourism. Do you know people actually go to Cuba just to look at those? There are postcards with just those. They have targeted tourism to the extent that when you go to their beaches, pristine, you see you can look at a sea and the waters, and it's turquoise. It's like you can see down into the...
We have some...
The hotels, they have targeted.
And we have such places in Ghana.
Yes, but I'm saying that, how many are they?
Exactly.
How many? Look at our beaches.
So that's a point.
Our beaches are places where people go to ease themselves.
That's the Ghana man attitude, where we have to...
But in the OT region, my region, There was this place I discovered, I've just forgotten the name, last year. Fantastic. It's like a valley, forest, and the people have lived there for centuries, 5 centuries plus, and they still live, like they still have those rustic, ancient ways of doing something. They get their water from rock and all of that. This is a touristic site waiting to be elevated, given some, not in Ghana. Talk shop.
See, it's serious. Look, there's a place called Akatechi in Ahanta West. It has the most beautiful beach front you'd ever see. I'm told there was a signpost, most beautiful beach front in West Africa. The road to the place is so bad. There's another place just a community just by. They have crocodiles. The road is bad. So you and I will not go there to see the crocodiles. So we'd have to make do with the one up north, you know. So we have to try to consciously develop these things, like the roads especially. Just make the roads accessible, such that I can be comfortable driving my small Opongolo car on it to go and access it, and then we'll be fine. But if we leave it the way it is, and I think we need to be conscious about certain things. We need to deliberately do certain things.
We will continue being dependent, being tied to the apron strings of the Bretton Woods institutions, always having budget deficits because we refuse to think, or even if we think, we allow party politics to destroy everything.
Yeah. If we begin to put Ghana first, maybe we'll see certain things right in this country. Yeah, let's move on to other papers.
Are you done with the Ghanaian Times?
Yeah, let's leave it there.
All right. Republic Press, breaking the 8, Atachian backs Bawumia Allen ticket. Do you think that is a possibility, though? Pairing the two of them? And who would decide to, okay, you be flag bearer and let me be, you know?
For me, I think it would inure to the benefit of the party.
But is it possible? Would it happen?
I don't know. Egos will come in. So, but yeah, if you really cherish what you are looking for, probably that's the best bet to go. Atacha is saying that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if they really...
So he is member of Parliament for Ibuakwa South. He is endorsing the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, as the flag bearer ahead of the 2020 elections. According to him, the party will save for itself money and the acrimony that characterizes elections. He is also saying that he would like a leading contender for the position, Alan Chamanting, as Bawumia's running mate in the lead up to the election.
So he has arranged.
He has done the categorization.
So go with Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. Let Alan partner him, because Alan is coming on board with the Ashanti, block. That this is the VP. Bawumia, which has not happened, is representing the Northern Bloc as your leader. Well, to me, I think it will be a good pair.
But we can't take out ethnic sentiments from our bit. Yeah. And sometimes okay, we've done the Achim bit, and I'm only reflecting what I'm not saying. So now it is, and all the bits about ethnic this, and he's from here, and this and that. Do you think it will work on that tangent? Like people would support it?
Because
people feel Alan has worked. Though, there was a time when the president said that, so yes, you've ceded for me and all that. After me, you are coming. But others would also say that Alan went ahead to contest him after that. And so it washed that away. Some would say, but Veep, this guy was here before you came, so why don't you run? I mean, but he's vice president as well.
Why do we do politics like that? To ask somebody, when did you come? I think it's about competence. Is the person competent to run?
It's done everywhere in our country.
But I think
even at workplaces.
We should end it. It's not a matter of Obadabeng. It's a matter of competency. Can you do this? Can this guy do this job? If he or she can, give it to him or her. And let us end this whole thing about when did you come in or what. I think if they believe the vice president has distinguished himself enough to run as the leader of the ticket, let him be, let him go. After all, you are getting the youthful, bit of it, as in the person of Dr. Bawumia. Pay him with a very experienced man like Alan Chamanti, and you are good to go. But like I said, it all boils down to egos. Whether or not they would accept to say, okay, I would want to support Bawumia to run, and whether they are, mostly the followers are the ones that call the shot? Will his followers say, okay, fine, Alan, go and partner him as his running mate? I don't know. That's something they have to look at. If his followers will say, okay, let's allow it, go and run as his mate, fair enough. I think that they will be a good pair. But there are a lot of boardroom things.
As of whether it will happen. I just have for snaps privileges completely. I just see. You know what I mean?
Charlie. Our new queen in Parliament, Charlie.
You know, yesterday, right? I was listening to Lex's bill, and then all of a sudden, it
came in.
The boom. And for a moment, I was, you know, let me use that. A chalk. So I was like, is that not aggressive? And then I realized from the tangent of the conversation. So I actually went on Joy, you know, on Facebook, and I followed, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a MP.
My experience was perfect.
In Swag Monsieur.
See, yesterday I was covering an event. It wasn't an event. There's this development around the Malam area that is blocking a certain swamp, and so when it rains, houses get flooded. So I was there. Immediately we jumped into the car. I had a certain interaction. I felt, this is BBC. Then I realized that, we are in a Joy car. So I said, is this Joy? The guy said, Joy. I said,
is it 99.7?
Charlie, let me catch up.
What's your 1.3?
Then I heard, because when we tuned in, it was Ajosa who was speaking. And I felt, this is a white lady somewhere speaking. So this could be, and you know, blessed to his accent is quiet, you know. So I thought it was BBC. Then I went onto Facebook. I said, "Oh, Charlie, this is just."
You also had to go and confirm.
Yes.
So traffic nichi. I went and confirmed, and I was like, okay, Montuaso.
So, and I was enjoying it. But I was like, Charlie, this woman, why? I've never heard her speak.
Allow. You say waiting,
Charlie.
What is that? National security.
How do we call that one? There was when we were in the university, we called it some way. This is we call Lafa,
I have no knowledge of what. She's a lawyer, you know that.
Let me
18 years experience.
All right, but
you on your own.
This one, but look, Lafa is called locally acquired foreign accent. Since when did this?
But you know, realistically, sometimes you go into a certain place
and then
assimilation, because you are there at the time. When you leave that place, it
her children probably have been speaking to her since she joined them.
Yes.
So we'll pardon her. But it's interesting. Now our Ajosafo speaks like the white lady.
National security gets 10,000 prank calls in 2 days. That is also let's check out other stories. Daily Guide. Have you done the Daily Guide yet?
No, but it's something we need to educate Ghanaians on. We should be wary of calling emergency numbers anyhow.
Charlie,
if you don't have any emergency,
like 10,000,
don't call it, because you see the time you would need them the most is when they will not respond to you because of what you've done. So let's
typical
check.
Crying wolf, and then the day the wolf is actually coming.
Okay, Charlie.
The headline is you.
I'm running for president. Kennedy Ejapon confirms.
Okay.
Charlie? Okay, no short privileges committee hearing. It has a picture of Adwa Safo. ER delegate route for Kwadwo Boateng Agyemang. Hey, there's MPP elections, it will be brutal. Appeals court dismisses Boga MP. Okay. Now, it says the member of parliament for Asin Central, Kennedy Ohene Ejapon, has broken his silence for the first time about his presidential ambition in Ghana. He has confirmed that he will contest for the forthcoming presidential primary of the governing New Patriotic Party with the aim of becoming president of Ghana in 2024. This man would hurt a lot of things because, look, he's loved. Yesterday, I interviewed a certain guy at Malam, and he said, tell Kennedy that he will become president one day. I said, hey, this man. But let's see how it goes. Ayo.
Are you done?
Yeah, I think.
What's the entertainment page saying, though?
The entertainment page.
No, that's exactly where you are.
That's where I am, eh?
So the next part.
Lil Wayne impregnated me when I was 16.
Yeah.
Patricia.
I've seen that story.
Patricia Freer, ex-wife of popular actor Kwadwo Nkansah Lil Wayne, has made some wild claims about her ex-husband, alleging he got her pregnant when she was only a minor. In an interview with Ohene about One TV, she alleged that the actor met her when she was only 14. As a minor, the actor still went ahead to propose love to her and ended up impregnating her. She also alleged that he used to abuse and maltreat her. That includes not coming home often and leaving her with little money to take care of their kids. Wow. That's
okay.
there.
Leave it there.
Yeah, we'll leave it there.
The final newspaper, we're getting ready to wind down. National Security Ministry, I think the only story here that we haven't done. National Security Ministry partners NAT in anti-terrorism campaign. And the Ministry of Security is partnering the Ghana National Association of Teachers on its educational awareness campaign dubbed, quote, See Something, Say Something in Accra. Addressing the members of NAT at a meeting, National Security Coordinator Major General Francis Edu Amanfo appealed to teachers to inform state security and intelligence agencies about suspected hideouts of criminals and terrorists. Kudos to NAT for this collaboration. And it is a wrap for me.
Yep. I would only wrap with our attitude towards solving problems in Ghana. I think we talk too much than act. Flooding, yes. Flooding has always been a major issue. Look, last I think on Monday, within this week, Jojo Kobna did a certain report.
Right.
And he painted a picture of how we have reported flood from 2014 to, and the story is same. The script doesn't change.
Actually, it's not same. Do you know, because of climate change and the rest, have you noticed now, it's getting worse.
Yes, but I mean...
It's getting worse. And we're still...
The same is our reaction when it happens. Oh, we'll do this so it doesn't happen again. Every year, we'll come back to say this. Last time, we read that the ministry has given us over 100 contracts for drain construction. None of it has been completed. How do we go about constructing drains?
Mr. President says we've spent over 400 million.
We construct drains today like we are constructing drains in 1960. Small, open. Why? Why do we do that? We have grown in size, and therefore our interventions to solve problems must diversify. We need to change. We are tackling problems in 1960. It is not right. We need to change.
We have grown.
Last time I saw that we have gone to commission some machines. It is not about commissioning. It's about the actual. I saw Odo and I was like, what? We need to get serious as a country.
Asembo. Thank you. And thank you for watching. Up next, sports. Here we are. We're getting into the big stories for today. Joining us as we look at Parliament and its resumption, as we look at the Sir John issue, as we also contend with the monetary policy going north. We'll be joined by Sam Obeng, Executive Director, Africa Parliamentary Network. We also have others joining the conversation. Dr. Theo Champong, an economist, and we'll have others also joining the conversation. We also have Gilfred Boateng Esiama, a research analyst with the CDD. Okay, so I'll start with Mr. Obeng. I know definitely you would like to get into the bit to do with Parliament, but first of all, let me say a very good morning to all of you, gentlemen.
Good morning.
All right, you're looking spick and span, raring to go. Okay. Parliament is back. How do you find that? I mean, yes, we expected them back, but looking at all the dynamics the Parliament has to deal with. 3 members of Parliament supposedly to go before the Privileges Committee. The Speaker of Parliament saying that Parliament is actually broke because the Finance Ministry has not, given it the right funds to conduct its work and all of that. What is your take on Parliament's resumption?
Well, indeed, we know that every year the House has 3 meetings. The first meeting spanning usually between January and April. The second from May sometimes to about August, and the third spanning October to December. And so this being the second meeting, it is only statutory, it is required, Parliament must meet. And there is indeed a lot to be done during second meetings. Second meetings are traditionally the meetings that are used for lawmaking, because usually the first meeting will have the president present the State of Nation address, it will be debated. Third meeting will have the budget. And so second meeting are heavy on, passing bills. They are heavy sometimes also on the media review, and they are heavy also on other representative functions that members of parliament have to take, such as questions and statements. So these second meetings are very, very important. And if parliament has a challenge with resources to be able to do its work effectively, that is really, really a very big problem. Parliaments the world over require resources to be able to do their work effectively. And we have been talking about the independence of Parliament. If Parliament will be independent, if Parliament will be able to assert itself as a co-equal branch of government that will have to do the work that it has to do through making laws, overseeing the executive branch, and also representing the people, then it must be adequately resourced. And to hear this from the Right Honourable Speaker, not the first time, not the second, quite a number of times, means that it is really, really a big problem which we need to tackle. But it comes to the bigger problem.
Where do you think the problem lies? Because he's pointing to the finance ministry and all of this. And it's interesting when you look at the dynamics. Baron de Montesquieu, just going back to my political science days, and separation of powers and checks and balances and all of that. We need these arms of government to be co-equal. And of course, though their funding is not exactly the same amount, we see the executive, because it is in power, usually, giving or having quite a bit of access to the largesse of the state. But when Parliament is handicapped in this way, time and again, what does that mean? And what does that mean for that role that Parliament must play as a co-equal of the two other branches?
Well, traditionally, parliaments, again, the world over has, quite a number of ways in which they are resourced. Usually, we would say 3 ways stands out. The first, and of course, the largest chunk comes from the government, because Parliament is doing government business. It's a branch of government, and so it must be adequately resourced. Of course, we've seen instances where in some Parliament they also generate some internal resources as part of the independence of Parliament's agenda through means innovative means that parliaments can think about. And then, of course, there are third sources where we have development partners supporting certain items on Parliament's budget line. So you have donors and all of those things. But the first stream of supporting Parliament or resourcing Parliament, which is through the government's budget, is the most important. And for me, these issues speaks to the bigger national concern of we not having enough resources to administer the state. And it is a big concern if your parliament is inadequately resourced to the extent that the Speaker of the House, who usually will be having exchanges and engagement with the executive branch behind closed doors, will now have to come to the full glare of the public through his opening remarks to Parliament to speak about these issues. It means that it is a very, very big problem. And the handlers of our national purse must take these matters very, very seriously. We as civil society, you as members of the Fourth Estate, must take these matters seriously. And we must ask the right questions, about why our parliament is not being resourced the way it has to be resourced.
We ought to be asking those questions. Let me also engage Guildford Boateng Isiama, research analyst with the CDD. On that same tangent, Parliament is back, but Parliament is also broke. Your quick reactions.
Hello?
Yes, Guildford, I can hear you.
Yes, can I get the question again?
Okay, so I don't know whether you followed the discussion up to this point, but I was just interacting with Samuel Bing of the Africa Parliamentary Network, and we're talking about the problems around Parliament, especially as the Speaker says Parliament is broke. and that's because the finance ministry has not, followed through on certain allocations to them. I'm asking for your quick reaction on that and the resumption of the work of Parliament.
Well, I think we have said it time and again, the fact that some state institutions need to be financially independent. And once we take that financial autonomy from them, then their work can even be undermined by the executive. And that is something that I think going forward we should be thinking about. Some agencies are horizontal agencies of accountability who have some powers granted by them, by the Constitution, to hold the executive accountable. And so when the executive has a lot of leverage in terms of deciding when and how they should receive their funds to do the work that they are mandated by the Constitution of Ghana to do, then I think it's something that is challenging. We need to go back to that conversation about how to make Parliament a little bit financially independent in order for them to execute their mandate.
What real problems does this pose for the work of Parliament, especially as they don't have what they need? Sam was just talking earlier about the fact that, Parliament needs these resources to be able to play certain roles that we all expect it to. Without that, how is this going to impact, the proper running of Parliament?
Well, Parliament has some key mandates and some key responsibilities. They have oversight mandates, and we see Parliament sometimes moving to the field to check, inspect projects, ask questions, and come back and hold the executive accountable. So if Parliament does not have the resources at their disposal to do the basic and fundamental things that they are supposed to do, then accountability suffers at the end. So I think this is something that all of us must come on board to discuss the issue, and we should find a resolution. Because if your the Parliament we have now is weak. I mean, in terms of the leverage that the executive have on Parliament, the Parliament is weak.
Our Parliament is weak.
Our Parliament is weak. There is no doubt about that. The kind of structural arrangement we have makes them weak. So to suffer further in relation to their financial autonomy, I think it further weakens Parliament's ability to do the things that they are supposed to do.
Do you think this can be sometimes done to keep the executive above, the legislative body in a way? Do you feel, in other words, do you feel sometimes these mechanisms are intentional?
It will be very difficult for me at this point in time to impute, that kind of motive from the actions and inactions of the executive. Who knows? Maybe we don't have the resources as it is to give them for them to do their work. And it may be the case that other government agencies do not also have the resources for them to be able to execute their mandate. But, well, you can't also, write it off entirely. It is one of the possibilities, except that I can't say at this time that is the reason why they are not being given the resources that they need to do their work.
Let me ask you this quickly. So we know about the basic ways Parliament gets resourced. And so the three arms of government, the legislature will approve the budgets of other bodies. In like manner, Parliament's budget will be approved and all of that. In recent times, we have seen the Speaker call for more. And he has even had to take on the executive and say, how can you be, increasing your budget and expecting ours to shrink by such numbers? But beyond what funding the state gives to Parliament, like Sam Obeng mentioned, there are other avenues. Should Parliament, on the back of these happenings, should Parliament be looking more at these other avenues in order to lessen its dependence on the state?
Well, I didn't follow Same's discussion, but I think the simple point I want to make is that if those avenues are legitimate for Parliament to generate these resources for them to do their work, why not? There shouldn't be anything wrong with it if those, but it also doesn't discard the issue of the table. The issue that Parliament needs to be financially independent also needs to be there. There must be some guarantee that they will get at least the resources that they need for them to function. That guarantees must be there.
Okay. Before I move on to Dr. Theo Champo, I just want to come back to you, Sam. So you started talking about this bit about other avenues of, funding itself, the legislative body. What are some of these other avenues? And do you feel, like I'm asking, that Parliament should start focusing more on some of these? Though I know that the chunk of what they get is from the state. Do you feel they should be increasing these other sources of revenue, so to speak, so that it can also decrease its dependence on the state? But the other angle to consider would be that if they did that, what would it mean in terms of maybe other people having influence on Parliament? That's the question to you.
Yeah, and Benjamin, it is important to note that even in the midst of these other avenues, it does not negate the responsibility of government to resource Parliament. In fact, that is a primary source of funding for Parliament, and under no circumstances must it be shrunk, under no circumstances must it be withheld, under no circumstances must it be delayed. If the executive branch does that, then it is an affront to the constitutional responsibilities that Parliament will have to undertake. And so my argument about, globally, other sources through which parliaments, resource their work is not to say that this should, take away the responsibility of government to resource Parliament. I've said that in other parliaments, you've actually found parliaments being supported in some of their programs, work programs. Usually some of the oversight work that they do, implementing their own strategic plan, institutional strengthening and all of that through grants and development partners supporting. But these are usually very limited. And in Ghana, where development partners have actually supported parliamentary work a lot in the early 2000s, right through to sometime in 2010, getting closer to 2020, that pool of resources have shrunk. Resourcing for parliamentary work has actually gone very down globally, but even in Ghana, it is more serious because development partners are shifting towards other parliaments who need better resources for institutional strengthening. So that is not coming much so far as the Ghana Parliament is concerned. Some other parliaments have also looked at other internally generated ways of raising revenue. So some of them also have, like we have in our Ghana Parliament, a training institute, which usually would conduct trainings at a fee and all of those things. But these are very, very minimal so far as the total budget, figures are concerned. And I must say that if you rely on any of these other two, then you are really positioning your parliament for real problem if it's an absolute reliance on that, because donors have their own demands and expectations and interest. But the primary source must always be the government source. And we cannot live in a country where, like Guilfred noted, and the speaker has said this, and parliamentarians have said this many times, having the executive budget go up every now and then, having some very, very interesting, expenditure lines that, in our opinion, are useless, not inuring to the benefit of the Ghanaian people, continuing, along the executive line, and yet the legislative branch, which is supposed to be the house of the people, is, denied of the resources that they need to do the work that they need to do. This cannot be countenanced, and we shouldn't be entertaining this at all.
Well, thank you for those salient thoughts. Let me bring in Dr. Theo Champong, an economist who joins the conversation as well. Doc, a very good morning to you.
Morning, my brother.
It's a pleasure having you. So we start with Parliament, and of course that's where we've kick-started the conversation. Let's stay there. Parliament is broke, the speaker says. I want your take on that and how you feel as an economist this would impact the work of the House, because it is tied to our finance streams, it is tied to the finance ministry making the right allocations and all of that. How troublesome is this?
I mean, I am worried, and it should never even have come to the point that an important institution such as Parliament would literally, to quote, be broke. Because at the end of the day, Parliament, like most of the other constitutional bodies, is funded directly by the central government. But the work that they do for me is so critical that it should never even get to the point where the speaker or any of the leadership would have to beg central government for what is due them to be given. And this is worrying because then it even affects the work of Parliament. Because remember, it's not just the parliamentarians. There are other workers who are on government payroll. There are other institutions that are aligned to Parliament. And to the extent that they are not getting their stipends and receipts on time, then that obviously affects, the work of Parliament. The question I ask myself is it really the case that the central government doesn't have the money? I doubt, because we tend to spend money on other resources, such as, for example, Samim makes a very good point. Look, we waste a lot of money in the system. And if we really want Parliament to work, we would find the resources to get it to work. I feel perhaps also there's a little bit of the politics, right, at play here, where in the last few kind of months, the government has struggled to get certain key bills passed through the House. And politically, you could feel that perhaps, what the central government is trying to do is literally punish the House for not, kowtowing to its interest. That could also be a significant factor here. Not just the fact that...
You feel that is a factor in this mix?
I think we cannot discount that factor. We've seen evidence, we've seen the rhetoric, we followed the events, and it is quite clear to me, at least in my head, that there could also be some sort of political brickmanship happening behind the scenes, which is pushing government not to allocate what is due Parliament, on time.
It's curious. It's curious you say that. Pardon the interjection, because the Speaker says, after saying, and I'll get to the main point I want to, after saying, and I'm quoting him here, Alban Bagman, Parliament is currently being run on arrears, and the House should not be treated like one of the ministries, departments, and agencies. If they want Parliament to run around, they should let us know. Then he says, tied to what you're saying, the Speaker is not ready and prepared to be blamed for the inability to get parliamentary business going on just because we are not getting the necessary funding. So the fact that he throws in getting parliamentary business going and some of what we've seen in the past, it feeds into what you're saying, that this could have its own political elements.
Of course. Look, everything that has an economic decision has a political dimension. That's why, for some of us, we study political economy, and we cannot discount the influence of, the decision makers, and sometimes, to call it bluntly, people's personal squabbles in affecting the work of certain institutions. In this case here, Parliament. And given the issues that the Speaker has had with, let's call it central government, giving some of the, back and forth, for me, it stands to reason that perhaps there's also an element of, tit for tat happening in this regard. I don't believe that, the country is like necessarily that broke that we cannot fund a core and key institution such as Parliament. It beggars belief.
Well, the Majority Chief Whip gave some comfort when he made mention of the fact that the Finance Ministry they have this in the offing to make payment in terms of the NHI, the GET Fund, and the District Assembly's Common Fund. So hopefully Parliament would, get their share of the cake. But quickly, there's also the bit about, in the mix of this, and curiously, yesterday, as we have it, the minority didn't approve of a budgetary allocation, a critical one, and it had to do with their decision or their stance that COVID-19 expenditure must be thoroughly investigated. On the back of that, the minority yesterday refused to join forces with the majority to approve this budgetary allocation. Maybe some of those matters that are creating a frosty environment, as far as the executive and the legislature are concerned. But how relevant is this and the posturing of the minority?
No, I mean, the minority is doing its work, and rightfully so. The work of Parliament is to check what the executive does. The challenge has been that in our case, or in the major part of the Fourth Republic, Parliament has become an appendage to the executive. So they've always had their way. And what this new Parliament that we've had with, the almost evenly split seat is basically acting as an additional layer of checks and balance on the work of the executive. So what they're doing, I don't think we should take anything away from them in terms of ensuring that any monies that are spent are properly accounted for and properly audited. And we've had issues within the civil society community to even raise questions about, some of those COVID expenditures. So I think it's rightful that some sort of audit is done on those monies that were spent during the COVID period. But as far as I'm concerned, the minority is doing its work.
Don't you think this like with the e-levy is going to stall a lot of what? Look, mind you, we're in dire economic straits already. So many dynamics to deal with. Yes, we've got the e-levy kicking, but these refusals to approve, budgetary allocations because of the numbers, isn't that going to stymie the very work of Parliament and by extension, the work of the executive arm of government business?
Well, it has already done that to an extent. We saw with e-levy, we've seen a bit of that, even with some of the EJAPA conversations, things like that. I think what it calls for is more consensus building. And this, hawkish approach by both sides to tone down and work in the collective interest of the country. But that does not also mean that, the right checks and balances on spending by government, by central agencies, because that's the work of Parliament, should not be undertaken. But I do get your point, and I think, yes, more consensus, more dialogue should be taking place. And the opposition should not unnecessarily, hinder the effective running of the central government machinery. But at the same time, they also have an important constitutional mandate or role to play in checking some of the spending by central government.
Do hold for me, Dr. Champong. Let me bring in Sam Obing, who is also with us. He's been patiently waiting. He's with the Africa Parliamentary Network. Now, there's also the thorny issue of the infamous three: Sarah Adwoa-Sarfo, Henry Quartey, Kennedy Agyapong. Yesterday, we heard from Sarah Adwoa-Sarfo, a fantastic interview by my own colleague and brother, Blessed Soga. And very revealing, some of what she says. But of great interest, the fact that she says she's not even aware of this summons to appear before the Privileges Committee and so many other dynamics. In other words, suggesting that her own party people who are gunning for her removal don't have the facts right. She states categorically that Mr. President is my appointing authority when it comes to my work as a Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, and I'm not moving an inch. When I return, I take my position. Let's start from there. The posturing of Sarah Adwoa-Sarfo versus her absence in Parliament and her absence from ministerial work. How does that rub off on you?
Well, so it is important to, and good job to JoyNews, I must say. I think that for a member of Parliament that the members of Parliament and parliamentary committees and the whole nation have been looking to hear from her, and we've been struggling with that. For you to have her for a full show, was quite impressive. But to say that, of course, the president is the appointing authority for ministers. If the president, as the CEO of the executive branch, decides that somebody that he has employed, who has been out of office for so long, should still remain out of office and still keep the job, that's the president's prerogative. I think that that's a conversation for another day, to look at whether the reasons why the excuse have been requested, are in tandem with the time and resources that probably may be spent.
So she mentions, she indicates, and she indicated yesterday that, of course, as we've come to know, familial matters, child going through a situation. We know how the system is in the United States. Your child could be taken from you by the state. But at the same time, she has many more children in her constituency and many more children in Ghana to deal with, especially in respect of her ministry. So, I don't know, weighing them, nuclear family versus everything else, because she's also a public, servant. So should she then not be told, yes, family, and it's important, but step aside so someone else can do the work?
Well, and so I was just going to come to the parliamentary side of things. I was laying this as a preamble for the executive branch of things. But like you rightly noted, for the parliamentary side of things, I am a father. Of course, I'm expected to do my job at Parliamentary Network Africa. My son or daughter may be having their own set of challenges, which I may be required to play my fatherly duties. Of course, there may be some conversations between myself and my employer on handling some of these matters. But especially when you are in public service, there must be that thin line. Some people have asked why we are discussing, for example, a dead man's will when it is his own will and, it is private property and all of that. But hey, he decided to go into public service. He decided to go into an arena where it is our resources that gets to pay him, where his acts and actions and inactions can affect every one of us. And this is the same arena that Madam Adwoa Safo has entered into. There are so many people in Dom Kwabenya who have not been represented in Parliament for several months. And this, in my opinion, cannot be encouraged. I completely empathize with her. As a father myself, I can appreciate when you've got to deal with matters relating to family. But there is also the bit about making choices, and making sure that you understand what must give for what you've got to do legitimately. Because, we cannot say that if one is having a son or a daughter who is struggling with one issue or the other, the person must neglect his or her job forever. That cannot be a tangible excuse. I think that, if in other jurisdictions, we should be having conversations about the fact that, look, your children are extremely important. You've got to definitely take care of them. You've got to avoid a situation where social services are taking them away from you. But please do not take for granted the many other people who've got to be represented in your constituency.
Is that what you feel she's doing? Is that what you feel she's doing? Is she taking them for granted? Because mind you...
Well, in my opinion, we cannot have a member of parliament who fails to attend to parliament for several months, close to, in fact, we're done 2 meetings of parliament. We are in the 3rd meeting, so close to 1 year, missing out on parliament and not doing the honorable thing and saying that, look, I've got to take care of family. Family is so important. So please, I would want to perhaps relinquish my role as a member of parliament. We should be having such conversations, in my opinion. And it doesn't only have to be with Honorable Adwoa Safo. Any member of parliament who feels that the role that has been given you by your constituents, you cannot play it adequately and effectively. One, because you have other pressing responsibilities, even including those of them who are serving as ministers and are not taking seriously the roles that they are supposed to play in parliament. They must learn to do the honorable thing. In other jurisdictions, this will not be a conversation that we are having in the way that we are having it. No.
So she says that nobody can sack her from her position, the ministerial position, apart from the president, which is, true, but she couches it in the sense that all of you are talking, you're doing a lot of talk, but you're not the appointing authority. Mr. President says I should be there, and I'm still going to be there. She also says she'll return and take up the position, including the parliamentary position, where in fact, we know of the developments in her constituency, and the fact that she wants to return to that post. Is that wrong? Is that I don't want to say immoral because it's not the right, but is that politically correct for her to be thinking along those lines?
On the bit about the president not being the only person, in fact, the president being the only person who can take care of her role, she's right on that. And of course, the ball is in the court of the president, to administer his executive branch effectively. But when it comes to parliament, it's a different ball game.
Okay, before you get into parliament, quickly, before you get into parliament, if you were the appointing authority, would you have sacked Adwoa Safo by now?
Well, I do not have the set of information that the appointing authority has, and so it would be very unfair to make a determination on this particular subject matter. Perhaps they have conversations that go deeper than you and I are privy to.
Okay, so on the parliamentary end?
But on the parliamentary bit, clearly, look, there are about 30 million of us. Let's assume that we are just about 27.5 million with 275 constituencies. What it means is that averagely, we're having each member have to represent about 100,000 people, right? Now, this is 100,000 people in Dom Kwabenya who for the past 8-9 months have not been represented in parliament, because without her, nobody, her PA cannot represent her, any other member of parliament cannot represent these people, have not been represented in parliament. Let's look at how serious this matter is. This matter is equivalent to the people of the South area who are not being represented in parliament. This matter is equivalent to any other constituency that do not have representation in parliament for a very long time because a member of parliament decides that I am not coming to the house. And it has its own ramifications. We are talking about how, she mentioned, and I listened to the show, she mentioned she not having received the Privileges Committee's sermons. I have done parliamentary development work for a while. I have actually, in my days when I used to do service in Parliament, I was assigned to the Privileges Committee, and so I know how the committee operates. I know, and I'll be very surprised that the committee will schedule a date and would not have summoned the individual who needs to be on that particular committee. But you heard members of the committee say, and we heard your own reporter who also said that he has spoken to people within the committee secretariat who had mentioned that they had sent official emails to the official email address that is on the records of Parliament. They have sent WhatsApp messages with a letter to the official telephone number that is on the records of Parliament. They have actually deposited a hard copy letter to her secretariat. And of course, if you are not physically present, then you will be missing out on some of these things. And that is why I congratulated you in the beginning as having been able to, as JoyNews, get her onto that particular interview.
Interesting point you make. Let me bring in Guilford once more. Now, Guilford, following from, the trade of questions, does Adwoa Safo, when she says, I have not given up on my party, the New Patriotic Party, she was there at a point for the vote on the e-levy, and then she upped and left again. Since then, they have needed her additional vote, looking at the dynamics of our parliament. They have not had that. Maybe if they had Adwoa Safo in place, what happened recently, what happened yesterday in terms of that budgetary approval, wouldn't have been poo-pooed by the minority. And so does she have the moral right, so to speak, to say that this is still my position and I'm coming back and I'm going to take over again? As and when she'll return, we do not even know. She talks about the fact that she has served the party, deputy majority leader, leader of the Women's Caucus and all of that, and that she has never done this before. And so that should be held. We should know that this is an exigency she cannot do without. Does she have the moral right to do this?
Well, at a personal level, I think you will sympathize with the woman if you listen to her story and the way she narrates her story. She's the only one who knows what she's going through. So at that personal level, you understand her on that.
Guilford, if you could speak up a bit, I'd be very grateful.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Better now.
Okay, I'm saying at a personal level, you you probably will understand and sympathize with her, listening to how she narrates her incident and what she's going through. But the other level, we are building a nation. We are building institutions. Rules must be respected. And leaders of our country must lead some examples. If this and what she is doing is happening at all levels of governance, can you imagine what will happen? So I think she really doesn't have the kind of moral right to be saying the things that she's saying, that I am coming back to take my ministry, having been absent for how many months.
So Adwoa Safo does not have the moral right to be saying, I'm coming back to take up these positions on the back of...
The right thing and the honorable thing, as my colleague has spoken about, was for her to just, step aside. Because you know there's something that you love to do, you know there's something that you want to do to help, but you are not in the capacity to do it. So why don't you get off completely and allow somebody to come and do it? If you are passionate about children and women, as you claim to be, if you are passionate about the people in your constituency, for how long are you going to be absent or be in the capacity not to execute the fine things and the things that you love so much? And again, preventing other people from being in the same position to do that. So on that basis, as I said earlier, I sympathize with her. She may be going through a lot. But at the same time, there are times, tested principles and things that people do when they find themselves in similar situations. They can't do it. So they step aside for other people to do the work.
Right.
So I think, she probably needs to rethink some of the things she stated and what she wants to do in the future.
Right. Let me just make this point. Of course, we say what is good for the goose is good for the gander. In this instance, there are gentlemen involved. Henry Quartey, Greater Accra Regional Minister. We also have Kennedy Ejapong, Member of Parliament for Asin Central. And of course, Henry Quartey is Member of Parliament as well, Ayawaso Central. These two gentlemen haven't, quote, been hounded the way Adwoa Safo has. Are we being unfair to her on that level? Is it men ganging up against her? Because you look at even the rhetoric within the party. A lot of the men, those who have questioned Adwoa Safo and been very vitriolic in their attacks, have mostly been men, leadership in her party. Are we being fair to her?
Well, if the reason for attacking her is because she's a woman, then that definitely is not something, that can be accepted in any way.
But girlfriend, no one would come out and say we're attacking her because she's a woman. But we see the trajectory of things. And these other men who have done the same thing are not being vilified like this.
Well, if the other men have done the same thing, I don't know whether the dynamics are the same. When the party needed these representatives, and how they got them, whether they got them at the right time and the time that they wanted them to be there. So I think the dynamics can also, play part. I don't want to start off by blaming the men and also, just reprimanding them because some have spoken, against Adwoa Safo. So that's what I don't want to do, not having the full set of facts before them that they did what they did. But I think under this circumstance, I would have even preferred that line of argument that once you fail to present yourself to Parliament within a stated period of time, automatically you should be taken out of Parliament. That discretion and a lot of emphasis from people within the party and people within Parliament talking about Adwoa Safo, and some even think that probably is part of the reason why they want to bring these people to the Privileges Committee, interrogate them, and make their own, declarations or decisions based on what they hear. And another thing is that, well, there's been an argument about whether when they finish, that decision should be final or not. And I think if that mechanism is being put in place to single her out and punish her, then that is not something to be accepted, and that is not something to be tolerated. Everyone who has found themselves in this same scenario must suffer the consequences as stated by law and as ruled by the courts of this country.
Let's let's actually move a little from that tangent and talk about leadership generally. And I want to bring in now another very topical matter we've seen. So I want to look at it from leadership and the standpoint of milking state resources, self-aggrandizement, asset declaration, and more. And I'll go to Dr. Theo Echampong first on this beat. So you followed the Achimota saga and Sir John. I mean, we know the dynamics, so I don't want us to belabor the point. But what is your real reading of what has happened? Take out the Owu family and all the dynamics. We have a public servant basically willing out public property to private individuals. And then there's the extended matter of assets and how rapidly they've been acquired within a certain space of time and all of that. What is your reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many facets to it. There are three things that stick out for me. Number one, conflict of interest. And in this country, it looks as though most of our laws, to borrow Professor Azar, are just mere suggestions, So we have laws on paper, but nobody really implements it, right? So there's lots of conflict of interest, and Sir John's issue is just an example of what takes place across all strata of the Ghanaian sort of society. The second issue also really comes down to the campaign financing and the extent to which people get into power pretty much with a view, for me, not necessarily to serve in the collective public interest, because somebody actually put you or financed your campaign, and it looks as though they must make those political returns from that. So in that context, it just becomes sometimes an asset and contract and procurement grabbing spree in that regard. And in relation to the point about campaign financing and the laws and our inability to check all these things, it really, for me, is at the heart of a lot of the issues that we're witnessing in the current sort of political dispensation. Because I talk to a lot of people, I engage a lot, and what is quite clear is that there's this sense of disillusionment amongst a lot of the population, but some of them then see the opportunity to actually break free from poverty by entering politics, right? Because that is like the quickest way to become a millionaire overnight. So you see this really incestuous relationship taking place across all strata, where people just want to get into public service, not for public service on its own sake, but it's just an avenue to break free from poverty. And it goes down to campaign financing, goes down to an inability to enforce the laws because they have just become, like I said, mere suggestions. And the fact that sometimes people don't even see that what they're actually doing is clear conflict of interest. But hey, who's going to call them to order?
Good question, which makes me wonder whether we are angry enough. Because look at the dynamics. Asset declaration is in the bin. They know it. The law has its own stipulations. They don't follow it. No asset declaration, and they are in public service. But it doesn't give you comfort that we've heard from the minority in Parliament calling for a thorough investigation into this. We've also heard from the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, who has said, we are going to investigate this. But some have said maybe he shouldn't even be the person doing this, while others have lauded him for his speedy response to the matter. Because guess what? We could go in the past, and who knows what we could unearth from there about similar situations. What's your take on that? And what would you want to see from such an investigation?
I think the investigation is fine. There are different facets to it. What the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources itself would do, But I think for me, the most important investigation in all of this is that of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. For me, the comfort there perhaps is the fact that on paper, they're meant to be independent and they're meant to find elements of criminality / corruption involved in some of those, properties that were acquired. Of course, the man is dead and gone. But look, this is really for me the honestness. The more we poke, the more we stir, the more you will find that across both sides of the political divide in Ghana, a lot of people, even people sitting in parliament, have acquired properties, have acquired things that ordinarily cannot be justified by the income that they're earning in public service. That is the elephant in the room that we're all staring here. So to the extent that we really want to reform this and we don't want it to be tokenist, then what should really happen is to enforce the asset declaration regime, but also to make some of them public, that we should be able to see. You came into office, you said you had 2 houses, you had X amount of money in your bank account. After 4 or 5 years of being in office, we should be able to see or tell how come suddenly you have 15 extra, bits of property somewhere here. Those lifestyle audits are quite important. But for me, that is really the crux of the matter, to the extent that the Sir John issue is just the tip of the iceberg. And it needs a collective consensus across the board to really, stem or nip this issue in the bud.
Mr. Obeng, let me take off right from there, because basically taking the wind out of my sail. The tip of the iceberg. People say we've just scratched the surface with the Sir John issue, and that there's a whole lot more rot that if we took the time to go back, and it's not just this, regime, but if we took our time to go back, we would unearth many more. Maybe a lot of them not from Achimota, but even the rest of our reserves. I mean, how is it possible for someone to be saying, you chiefs and all of that, don't allow people to get into our reserves and do X, Y, Z, while the people themselves are doing that, people in authority? So what then? Should this be the catalyst for us to say, thus far, no farther, and we're going to stem the tide of this? And how would we go about it?
Well, you see, in every developmental process, nation building process, there comes a time when, some decisions must be made based on, circumstances that are happening around us. And for me, this is but the best time to actually start having the conversation and real action on matters relating to asset declaration as one of the ways of dealing with this perennial issue of corruption that we have actually had, in this our country. Now, look at it this way. Corruption is defined simply as abuse of entrusted power for private gain. And so think about the number of people, including this case of, Sir John, which, with all the things that has been alleged, and they are being investigated. So we wait for the results of the investigation. How people who are in government, who are in positions of authority, even including civil servants, are able to abuse entrusted power entrusted to them for private gain. Typical case of what the definition of corruption is. And Dr. Champon makes a very interesting point, which I think should qualify for a quotable quote, as people taking opportunity to break through from poverty by entering politics. And we're seeing too many of these, in our country, and it's a worry. And for me, you ask about how we can go around these issues. One too many times we have sat around the table as civil society with the ministry responsible for Justice, Attorney General, with the Auditor General to talk about this issue of conduct of public officers bill, which will come to sanitize our asset declaration regime. We have made proposals upon proposals on what must change with our asset declaration regime. They have refused to take these matters up. The bill has been in and out of Parliament.
When you say they, whom are you referring to? The parliamentarians?
The political class.
And is
the
it,
political class.
Is it so the political class. Why do you feel that is? Why do you feel that is?
Well, they have cited so many very, very, in my opinion, ridiculous excuses on why this cannot, the proposals cannot hold. They have cited culture as a reason why we cannot have people publish their assets, because people will come after them and family members will know what they owe. They've spoken about how they think that the current regime, where you just lodge what you have as your assets with the Auditor General and nobody can open it until a problem looms as the problem, and we have always said that somebody can simply submit a sheet of paper that is blank, knowing that nobody's ever going to check. We've spoken about how, if we don't have an asset declaration regime that is robust, people may not necessarily be acquiring assets, but they may come to power very broke and have some huge liabilities, and you may not even see them, having the cars and the mansions, but they are paying off huge debts, which would usually not be very evident in the lifestyles that they get to live. Right. And yet the political class, and I use the term political class because this has not only been an issue of the current government, even members in opposition in Parliament have usually not supported matters relating to the conduct of public officers bill. And for me, there comes a time in a country's life when an issue happens and it becomes that straw that breaks the camel's back, that makes us move forward. When you talk about asset declaration and conduct of public officers bill, citizens and many of us see it in a very abstract manner. We cannot relate. But this is a classical case of relating to it, where we have someone who takes up office, does not declare his assets. Within the period that he's in office, we see the kinds of things that are actually dated during the period that he's in office, including issues that are supposed to be part of the things that he's supposed to supervise as the authority that has been put in that particular office. So this provides us an opportunity to check our asset declaration regime. It provides Parliament the opportunity to go beyond the rhetorics and start ensuring that they are asking for the conduct of public officers bill to be brought back to Parliament. And when it is brought back, they must expedite action on it. It goes to the point of also those of us in civil society and in the fourth estate taking advantage of the right to information law to request to be able to find out the people who are in authority now, members of Parliament, senior staffers in civil service, appointed officials, who and who has declared their assets at the very minimum, who and who has declared their assets and who have not declared. Because we cannot wait for some of these things to happen before we get to realize that one person or the other have actually not declared their assets. We should be asking.
Actually, there are many of them who have not declared their assets.
We should put that out. We should put that out for people to know that you've been appointed. You are asked to declare your assets once every 4 years at the beginning of taking up office, at the end of it, within the 4-year interval. And person A, B, C, and D have not done that, so that they cannot hide behind, the smoke screen and be doing some of the things that they are doing. But they know that the people will put their foot to the fire.
Right. Let me bring in Goldfred on this matter. All important, because even as we talk about taxation and raising revenue and all of that, if it's just going to be siphoned into individual pockets, what's the use? Sometimes you talk about, look, in the debate about the e-levy, a lot of young people I interacted with said, I don't have, confidence in what it's going to be used for. And that is a problem. And that is part of what we're seeing here. But is this a wake-up call as a country? Is it time for us to be angry enough and compel our leadership to say, do the right thing or we're going to punish you? Look, we have the instance where in the United States, Yahya Jammeh and everything he's done and whatever he amassed from his country, Gambia. Now, one of his mansions worth $3.5 million has been confiscated. If maybe that was sold and the resources given to his state, Gambia, that would be a step in the right direction. Is that what we should get to? You get these assets, we find out these assets were not acquired, you cannot give any explanation for them. The state should go ahead and enforce the law, confiscate these, and maybe that will serve as some sort of deterrent. What do you think? Do we have Guildford on the line?
Hello?
Yes, Guildford, did you catch that?
Yes, I'm saying I think that is a step in the right direction. First of all, before we even get there, I think we need to tighten the rules. And as Same indicated, what if at the point that we want to even verify these assets, we find there's nothing? So I think we really need to promote transparency and accountability, right from the laws that we put in place to the enforcement of these laws. Many a time that politicians pledge to deepen democracy in this country and they want to carry on all the attributes. But when it comes to real action, then they tend to draw back. And this is what has brought us to this level. And sometimes we turn and just blame democracy, that democracy is not working for us. Meanwhile, what we need to do in those democratic environments or within the democratic culture to ensure that we get the maximum benefit from this regime, we shy away from them. If you have asset declaration regime without verification, then it is nothing, because you can't verify whether the person has made a true statement or not. You have no power to determine. So, first of all, I think we need to tighten some of these rules to ensure that people who are put in public office can even boast about their integrity. And again, it also goes to also ensure that people have trust, because we know what you have before you came. And we cannot just imagine or say things that, oh, this man came, acquired this and that from nowhere. If right from the onset you have done this, then everyone will have confidence that by the time you left office, everything that you acquired was legitimate and your integrity is intact. So I think, one, we need to tighten the rules, and even some of the suggestion has been, well, why do you allow the person to even assume office before they declare their assets? If they are willing to go into public office and come out and say our hands are clean, then the transparency must even begin right from there. They have to fill their assets and declare their assets even before they get into office.
Absolutely.
If they can't, then they back off. So I think issues about transparency, issues about accountability must be part and parcel of the laws that we promote. If not, we would draft just any law which cannot bite. The same issue is related to the issue about conflict of interest. It is one of the major sources of corruption in this country, but we tend not to mind it. And what are even the repercussions when people find themselves in this conflict of interest situation? Issues about the conduct of public officers, especially with regard to how they exercise their discretion. We have said this over and over again, and public officials can just do anything and give any flimsy excuse. Sometimes they don't even give any excuse. They don't justify. Look at how this land has been given to the family. It started from 90. Now we are talking about 300. And you have people at the Forestry Commission who lead and give portion to this family, come back again and give an excuse which cannot be accepted. That we found later that where we gave to the family was not where we were supposed to give to the family. Right. They go back again and come back and give the same reason. And how do they even justify it? When the family came back and said, we have given leases and grants and whatever out, so if you should change or vary this, it's going to be to our disadvantage. Who went and checked whether what the family said was true? And if we don't hold some of our public officers to that level of integrity, they will do whatever they want to do. So I think we need to tighten the loopholes, and we need to tighten them very well so that people in authority will know that even when they don't want to act right, they will be compelled to do so by law.
And I guess that is what applies in other regimes that we seek to copy. It is not that people there want to abide by these, but the fact is that it is the system, and it will compel you to do so. But let's look at another angle to the dynamics we're going to consider. The final angle, actually, it has to do with money matters, the economy. The monetary rate, or the policy rate, has gone up by 19%, 200 basis points. And that has given us a lot of cause for worry, because what this also means is that it's going to have a ripple effect on the lending rate. And I've seen, instances where some banks have started, sending out to people who have facilities with them that, look, you're going to have to pay more in terms of your monthly payments, or you're going to have to extend how long you're going to be making payments for. That is the reality. What does this mean? I've heard the likes of Professor Gachi say that, well, we're in dire economic straits and this is the way government has chosen to go. For you, Dr. Theo Echampo, what is your reflection? Was this needed at this time? Because it means in the next 2.5 months, 3 months, what it means is that it's going to be even more expensive to borrow from the banks.
Look, the central bank was actually caught in a very difficult position, either to hike rates or not to hike rates. And each of them comes with different policy trade-offs. The biggest threat facing the economy at the moment from a monetary side is inflation. And if you look at the inflation readings from the statistical service, the latest one for April was actually 23.6%. If you compare that to the year before, so April of last year was 8.5%, right? So you're seeing almost like a threefold increase in inflation year on year. And if you break that down, you can see that food inflation is actually the biggest driver of the overall inflation or inflationary push that we're seeing currently. So to that extent, the monetary policy was being or took the action in an attempt to curtail money supply, and ultimately that then helps to bring down the level of inflation. Again, remember that the central bank has a target originally of inflation being between 6 to 10% and 10%. That was the range. And all the numbers and all the readings since January of this year basically has been out of or outside of that range. So that's really like the difficult choice that the MPC had to make to hike up the rates. Some of us perhaps had even been calling or saying that the rate hikes should have happened a little bit earlier. The central bank should have been a little bit more proactive in that regard. And the runaway inflation we're seeing would have, come down a little bit. So the biggest concern is inflation. All other issues in terms of the cost of servicing your loan facility or going to borrow and all of that, for sure, those things will go up one way or the other. And that could also ultimately be or have some negative repercussions on the economy, at least in the short term. But those are the trade-offs that need to be made. And if you don't have enough shocks or buffers and you're burning through your reserves to support the economy, and you have all the issues of debt management also as well, then, really, when push comes to the shove, things like inflation is just going to, force the policymakers down a path that then ultimately even hurts, future growth prospects.
Very briefly on this one, so was there an alternative? You say we could have done this earlier, looking at all the shocks, inflation, fuel prices, food prices, everything, and all the dynamics we have to face. What alternative or alternatives would government have had, the central bank? Instead of doing this, what could they have done instead?
So remember that what the central bank does is also complementary to what the central government does. So I'm talking Ministry of Finance on the fiscal policy side of things. And both of them must go hand in hand, right, or be synchronized. So we cannot have a monetary policy instrument or tool like we're doing now, trying to fight inflation. And then at the same time, your whole tax reform effort and your fiscal effort, is also out of gear in that respect. So I think what is very much important now, the central bank has done its bit. They've supported the economy. They've used bits of their dollar reserves to support the economy. And in fact, if you look at the reserve holdings, it's actually gone down from about 4.4 months to about 3.7 months of import cover, according to the latest statistics released by the central bank for May of this year. So you can see their attempt to do their bit to support or to prop up the economy. The issue really has been, in my view, on the fiscal side of things, how we raise money and how we spend money, and a lot of the wasteful expenditure that also then tends to take place. So that's where I think the complementary actions and policies need to come from, and we need to start seeing the government really put in all its efforts, to sort of address a lot of the issues, not just revenue, but importantly on, in my view, expenditure rationalization. Because even the e-levy, for all the talk and all the cry, some of the numbers coming through doesn't really indicate that those targets will be hit or met at the end of the year.
Thank you so much, Dr. Theo Champon. To wrap the conversation with Sam and Guildford very quickly. So I'm going to throw this question to both of you, and I'll give you each a bite of about a minute and a half. I'll start with you, Sam. So we also have the regional elections of the MPP. They're going to go out for chairman, general secretary, and others. And it also makes for interesting reading. The Ashanti and Central regions are hot, but in the Central region, for example, a last-minute situation there, legal situation, injunction as far as the Akumfi constituency is concerned, has left that region hanging. They are not going to have their contest within this timeline. It has to do with TESCON reps, Council of Elders members not being known, so to speak. But when you look at the dynamics, what we've seen so far, the contest in the Ashanti region, Chairman Wuntumi being contested by Ordineho and others, what is your reading of the situation and what can we expect?
Well, I must say that I'm not as close to the action as perhaps you and everybody else. Of course, for the past couple of weeks, I've been working from our country program here in Sierra Leone. But of course, we've been monitoring this from the media, and we know that time and again we have parties when they have their internal primaries. It being very keenly contested, especially also when the party is in power. Because I cited Dr. Theo Champon's quote, earlier on, and I will cite it again. We know how people consider these as very, very important for them to be able to have a piece of, the power that the party currently, controls. And so we expected a keen context. The dirty side of it and some of the nasty scenes that we have seen are the ones that are regrettable. To have these things being keenly contested was to be expected. We expect that in politics and in democracy, yes, these keen contests must go on, but in the end, they must go on in a way that are sane, in a way that are courteous, so that we do not have people being, hurt, property being destroyed in the lead up to the elections. We can only wish the NPP well, even as they go into these elections. And to say that we expect that as a party that touts themselves as one that believes in democracy, they should come out of these processes showcasing that, because anything short of that will further, lower the reputation that they have been able to build in the past as a democratic institution.
Guildford, for you, especially on the back of what we've seen at the constituency level? Hello, Guildford. All right, it appears we've lost Guildford Boateng, Esiama research analyst with the CDD. It would have been interesting to get his take on those dynamics. But gentlemen, we're very grateful for your time. Thank you so much. Guildford Boateng, Esiama research analyst with the CDD. Sam Obeng, executive director, Africa Parliamentary Network. And Dr. Theo Echampong, economist, also giving us some scope on the economic situation of our country and the rise in the monetary policy rate. So this is the first belt of our discussion. When we return after the break, we're looking at exactly that, the MPP's regional elections and the way forward. But President Akufo-Addo is asking metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies to remove structures obstructing the free flow of water immediately. This comes after, for the second time within a week after heavy rains on Saturday, May the 21st and midnight of Tuesday, May the 24th. Now, Kojo Brace, my colleague, has been engaging some Ghanaians on this. Let's take that before we get into the other subject. That's for Citizens Microphone. Now, Kojo, over to you. What have the people been telling you?
Well, let's start to engage some of you on the street, but remember to share your thoughts with us on our social media platform, and we will share it with the rest of our viewers around the world. Well, good morning. I hope you're well.
Good morning. I'm fine.
Generally, what's your thinking about how we've struggled to deal with flooding over the years?
Okay, so I think we are struggling because we are filthy. We don't care about our surroundings. We keep throwing rubbish around, and so long as we don't change our attitudes towards keeping our surrounding clean, we'll continue having this flooding problems. Yes, so let's just change our attitude. Yeah.
The president has given order to our MMDCs that pull down structures in waterways. What do you make of that order too, that instruction?
I'm not sure this is the first time this instruction is being given. The MMDCs will take the instructions and go back, take money from people and allow them to rebuild on those same places again. So I think another measure has to be taken apart from just allowing the MMDCs. I don't know whether they can let the military, I don't know how it's going to be done, but more stringent measures have to be taken.
Like, what will be your proposal?
I think we should start from the rubbish first. So with the rubbish, even learned people, like we are educated in this country. The learned people in this country are more than the uneducated. Yes, but then we keep throwing rubbish around. So I think the education, even the teachers are doing it, but I think the education should start from the school. Then also, I think sanctions should be meted out to people who do it. If people are made to pick when they place things on the floor, they are made to pay something, like just anyone, no matter who you are. When you put something on the ground, you pay for something. I think it will help.
It will help. All right.
Yeah.
Grateful for sharing your thoughts with us on Citizen Microphone. All right, so let's still engage more Ghanaians here. We are still talking about flooding. Chief, thank you very much. I hope you're well.
Yeah.
Great. Why do you think as a country we have struggled to deal with flooding?
You know, it's a problem for a long time. So I think when the authorities, the environmental protection, they see that such kind of things will go to disturb our environment, they have to take up and then immediate step that such kind of thing will never disturb our society. So I think the authorities have to do something about it.
The president says MMDCs break down structures that are on waterways. What do you make of this instruction?
That is what I earlier said. You know, we are all involved. We have been seeing whatever is going on. So when you see that you are at a place whereby the flooding will take your things away, why will you be sitting down there? What I mean is that, you know, it's a problem that we are all facing. Those around the river banks, the riverside, or maybe the flooding areas, they have to see that when it is raining, this is not a short-term problem, it's a long-term problem. So authorities have to do something about it. So you yourself, you shouldn't see that authorities have the president have brought some certain kind of command, so it's hurting me. No. Even the president shouldn't care the president having said anything at all. You yourself bathing there. What do you think it will help you? It will help you for anything. So you have to quit from the area. Then that's what I say. All the authorities have to bring hands on board, and then we see what we can do to help the nation. That's what I think. Yeah.
But once they are not doing it, and the president says break down the structure, they should go and break down the structures, right?
Yeah, I think that's what I earlier said. Okay. You know, if the president hasn't said it, and water is taking your things out, what will you do about that? Yeah.
They themselves won't break it down, but authorities can break it down.
You have to use your conscience.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm grateful. Let's still engage more people on the street of Accra. Chief, thank you very much. I hope you're well. What do you make of the flooding situation in Ghana?
Okay, well, personally, okay, the other man was talking about the president's address, but
yeah, but let's look at the flooding first.
It's an eyesore to see a country like Ghana. We are supposed to be spearing the affairs of African countries, and when we come to our capital, we see such flowers during rainfalls. It's an eyesore, but we have to do something about it. That's what the president was saying.
Yes.
And as a people, we must engage ourselves. Yes, the president said the MCs and other government officials should, yes, because it's the centralization of government. So when we get hold of all these affairs, one by one, then together we shall make everything. So I agree with President that the MCs, even the assembly members, should also, because they are in touch with the people, the assembly members should get themselves involved so that with the MCs and the DCs, they can also do the work and engage the people to be active. Maybe
but do you agree that structures that are built in waterways should be pulled down because they are the cause, or they are contributing factors to the flooding?
Yes, they should be pulled down. And those who are responsible, I'm from the Ashanti region. The chiefs, they do sell the lands. So they are the custodians of the lands. And not only the chiefs, anybody who has a land and is flood-prone area should desist from it. But to do that, we need the law to be enforced. And it should be, the law should catch everybody, no matter your position. Because when we do that, then together we can say that, yes, this country, the law is working. And when the law is working, then when someone is doing something wrong, he thinks one or twice before he does it, because he knows that when the law gets hold of him or her, the law is not going to spare him. Being him a chief, an MC, a government appointee, we should do that as a people, collectively, as a nation, who are very, very serious to build our country and to make our country neat and nice for when visitors come, so that we can be, where we shall be proud of it.
So we should move a step further by punishing people who have superintended over all of these things.
The punishment is very crucial, because when you look at elsewhere, when you do something wrong, you are punished. And this deters the people from doing it. Otherwise, when Kwame says, I did it and nothing was done, Kojo too will follow. But when the one is punished, no matter the status of the person, then that will bring an end to everything. So who are the culprits should be punished. That's my view.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm grateful, sir. Let's still get more people on the street of Accra to talk about flooding matters. You are still watching the Citizen Microphone on the AM show on Joy News. Let's still talk about flooding. Let's see if our boss, Chief, the president says we should tackle flooding once and for all. Let's look at demolishing structures that are built in waterways. What do you make of this?
That one should have been the first thing they should do. Because if you know that your structure is built on a waterway, it must be demolished. But our leaders, they don't stand on their feet. So it's worsening everything. So they have to do something about that. Yeah.
And aside that, what do you think we should all do to deal with this perennial flooding we're always confronted with?
Another best way of dealing with it is that at times it is not the work doing. If they say all of us should come out and clean Accra, I swear we can clean Accra within 10 minutes. But how to dispose it, that is where the big problem is coming. That's where the big problem is coming. So if they can, is the disposing, and the disposing too depends on the one who did the work, his payment. Somebody can do a work, it will take him over 2 years, 3 years, they haven't paid him. I have something about that. I deal in construction and I know what I'm talking about. There are people who have done work even since 2017, they have not paid. So if there's even a small work, you are asking somebody to come and do it. If he has to do, because when he do the work, he might not be paid. Yeah, that is where the problem is.
So that's all together. But what about ourselves and the way we
some of these things, 40% of the problems are from us. Because you can see when it's raining, people will pour in rubbish into gutter. So 40% of the problems are from we the citizens. That's that. Yeah, so that's what we have to advise ourselves because these things are not good.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm grateful. So let's still try and engage more people here. Chief, let's try and talk to this young one. Chief, we are talking about floods, and I'm sure you are in the city. You've seen how devastating the impact of flooding is. First of all, what do you make of this problem of every year dealing with flooding?
Oh, okay, I would say it's the attitude of we Ghanaians. Like when it's flood, they dump refuse into the drain and make the cause of the flooding, and people building on water. Yeah, I'll say that's the main cause of the flooding.
Then so what do you make of the president asking MMDCs to pull down structures in waterways? You mentioned it.
Well, with that, you can't blame those who have put the structures on the waterway solely, because they go for permits and they give them access to build. So breaking them down, well, it may not be a bad idea though, but it's going to cause a lot of problem for them as well.
So what do we do?
It should be demolished.
All right, thank you. So that's his thought there, that we should demolish those structures because look, they are really causing a lot of harm to the country. Anytime it rains, the city floods, and not just Accra, a lot of places in Ghana get flooded. Like you had the young man, mainly because some of us are building in waterways and we are disposing of rubbish anyhow. How do we deal with this? Let me end with this man here. Chief, just let me end with you. Flooding situation, sir. How are you doing? I'm sure you are in this city. You see how floods have been dealing with us as a people. What's your thought about this situation?
All I think is that our drainage system is poor as a country.
The drainage system?
The drainage system as a country is very, very poor. Once that thing is sorted, I'm sure the leaders are aware. They know some of these things, but I don't know why they have taken too long to rectify the problem. The whole country, and especially Accra, I don't know, for whatever reason, and specifically Circle, where we are standing right now, there's always this problem, and I don't know why they have not sorted it. I'm sure they know how to go about it. If that thing is sorted, then the flood problem should stop. I think so. That's my problem. That's my point of view.
What's your own experience with floods?
Okay, so just last week, I visited a friend at Kwashibu specifically. He had a pharmacy shop over there. And it started raining. We thought it was just a normal rain. Before we realized the whole place was flooded. And the car, you have no idea what the rain did to the car. Meanwhile, there were gutters over there. But the gutters were too small. And just after a few rain, the whole place was flooded. The gutter was choked and everything. So I think, first of all, our drainage system should be looked at, which is the most important thing. The sizes of our gutters are too small. And our gutters should be covered as well, because it gets sealed up early because the gutters are not covered. People passing by, knowingly or unknowingly, drop things, and some of the particles coming from everywhere. Before you realize, the gutters are choked. So our gutters should be sealed and the sizes should be expanded and the whole drainage system of the country should be sorted. If that is done, it will be, and I think the last one is those who are building the waterways. Our politicians should please, I'm apologizing with them, should not
you are
tackle.
appealing to
yes,
them.
I'm just appealing to them that they should not tackle this issue with political lens. Be it whoever that builds in the waterway, that person should. In fact, I don't know what the whole planning. I think they have a planning whatever. If you are building,
we call them town and country planning.
Exactly. So how do they give permit for some of these people to build in the waterways? Apparently, you realize that when you dig down, you realize all these people who are supposed to ensure that these people don't build in the waterways are the same people giving them the plan or giving them whatever certificate, the permit to build. So they should make sure that these people don't build in the waterways. If they are found corporate, their buildings should be brought down and the gutters should also be solved. I think these are the two things. Clear those buildings in the waterways and work on our drainage system, and these things will stop.
Irrespective of whoever's building it is, they should pull it down.
It doesn't matter your political affiliation. This thing should be sorted once and for all. So that as a nation, anytime it rains, everybody's heart is in the mouth, which is not the best thing to do. It's not the best thing to do at all. That's my opinion.
So no matter who is the owner, even if it's your dad or your uncle, they should bring it down?
No, for the greater good for everybody that is available. When the flood comes in.
All right, so let's get into, what you can see right behind me, the NPP, New Patriotic Party, going into the regions. We're looking at how they are planning to execute this, especially on the back of some of the very difficult situations they faced in some constituencies here in Accra, there in the Ashanti region and beyond. Well, joining us for a conversation as we hit the northern, northeast, Savannah, Upper East and Bono regions. We have, I see Richard Kwadwo-Nyarko, I see Isaac Nonya in the Savannah region, Kwadwo-Nyarko in the central region, Maxwell Kudeko in the eastern region, and Ilyasu Tanko in the northeast region. All of them joining us for the conversation. I'll start with you, Richard Kwadwo-Nyarko, because in the central region, there's quite a bit of a picture being painted there. Ekumfi constituency and the petition they've put forward. So that election is not coming off. What exactly triggered this?
Well, so the elections have been conducted in all the constituencies in the central region. So they were supposed to be conducted in the constituencies in the central region. But for Ekumfi, according to the aspirant there, they went through the vetting. Only one person didn't pass the vetting, and so had to appeal to the election management body, and were told that he was cleared. And so they told them that they will set a date for the conduct of that particular elections because they've done the police station elections, the ward elections, and all of that. They have been waiting, but no one seemed to be telling them anything until they heard that the elections were going to be held today. And so they organized a press conference, and then within that space, they were told that the person that was cleared lately, later on, had gone to insult the regional chairman, and they feel that was the reason why they did not really allow the elections to be conducted in the constituency. So they filed an interlocutory injunction at the Cape Coast High Court, and so the injunction has duly been served on the election management body, and that is the reason why they have to put the elections on brakes. And so they are waiting for the injunction motion to be heard before they can decide on whatever dates. Their fear was that they would be disenfranchised, their right will be curtailed, the right to participate in the regional elections will be curtailed should they go ahead with the regional contest. And so that is why the elections have been put on hold.
All right, I'll be coming back to you shortly. But even before I do that, so when is it slated for? I mean, for now, there is no designated time for the election to be held.
Until the motion on notice is heard by the courts, they cannot slate any time because they have to finish with that. Depending on the decision of the court, they would have to conduct the elections at the Kunfi, because you know that is the constituency executives and other delegates that are supposed to vote in the regional elections.
All right. As for the Ashanti region, of course, we know that there is the venue that has been changed. Now the Baba Yara Sports Stadium would be used. But let's go up north, specifically to the northeast region. Ilyasu Tanko joins us from there. What is the latest, Ilyasu, when it comes to the elections to be held in the northeast region? What have the preparations been like, and what have people been saying as they go to the polls today?
Well, as you can see from the background, this is the venue for the election. And as you can see, supporters and delegates have started coming to the venue. And a while ago, I saw the arrival of the regional chairman, the incumbent chairman, who is seeking re-election. I have also seen a couple of some aspirants as well. I have seen members of the election committee, and I've also seen some members of the regional executives here as well. And so people continue, party supporters, aspirants, and they are simply to trunk the venue here at the Nalerigu Senior High School, where the process has already begun. I can see heavy security presence. Police are here. I can see some armed police as well. As we speak now, the police are at the entrance trying to ensure that we have the peaceful election. As I speak to you now, I have the regional communication officer, Mr. Amos Walibi, to tell us the preparations so far this morning. Welcome to JoyNews, Mr. Amos. Thank you, Ilyasu. So what is the preparation like? When are we expecting to see the election take off? I think, as you can see, this year.
All right, Ilyasu, just hold for me if you can hear me. We'll come back for that interaction with you. Just hold for me. We'll come back so we can get the feed for that interaction. But let me bring in Maxwell Kudeko in the eastern region, another crucial region when it comes to the party. You know that it has been crucial to the fortunes of the MPP, not just the Ashanti region, but the eastern region as well. Maxwell connects with us from the eastern region. Max, good morning. Maxwell Kudeko, if you can hear me.
I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, how is it shaping up? How are things shaping up in the eastern region when it comes to this regional vote? I mean, what have people said to you, the leadership of the party in the region, and maybe your interactions with the delegates? What is it pointing to?
Well, the Eastern Regional Delegate Conference is one of the most crucial or looked up to elections in this entire processes of the MPP, in a sense that many have described the regional election, especially the regional chairmanship contest, as a contest between powers, i.e. the contest between the presidency and that P for IBTF, in a sense that there's a wide perception that the two major contenders...
Maxwell, I lost a bit of what you said.
Regional chairmanship.
If you could just go back. You say it is a contest between...
Well, many have said that the regional contest, especially the regional chairmanship contest, is a contest between the presidency and Mr. Brian Champon, in a sense that...
Well, unfortunately, there are very important points you're making, but we're struggling to hear you. Max, let's try one last time. All right. So, Max, we'll try to reach you on phone so you can give us the scoop on that. But let's go back to Ilyasu. Ilyasu, thank you for rejoining us. You were going to have an interaction with one of the regional executives. You can go ahead with that transition now.
Yeah, so that's the regional communication officer. He's going to tell us when the exams will, the election, will be started. Yes, Mr. Amos, thank you for coming.
You can see yourself, everything is almost set. We are very certain that because by 10
it's not ready yet. Let me pick this one.
Hello, we can commence voting. We plan that by 12 p.m. everything should be done. So we're hoping that by 10 a.m. voting should commence. By 12 p.m. You know, Northeast is a small region. We have 146 delegates, and so it wouldn't take us so much time. So we are very hoping that within 2 hours, voting and counting done. About 12 p.m. everything will be done.
I mean, yesterday there was an issue about a petition that was written or that has been written to the election committee.
Yeah. Yeah, they have been resolved. The petition had to do with the Nasara coordinator position. Someone is contesting the incumbent, and it was alleged that he was not a voter in the region. But that has been established. We have been able to establish that indeed he's a voter in the region. So that has been resolved. Now with the security concerns, I hope you have seen yourself. Especially this has to do with race. That one is keenly contested race. And you have seen that they have provided sufficient security for all the 3 aspirants, the incumbent and his 2 contenders. They have provided sufficient security to guide them. And you have seen for yourself in the venue. I think the security here is more tight than in 2019. You were here. You have seen how the security is. If you are not a delegate, if you are not a protocol member, if you don't have accreditation, as you have seen, you are not allowed to come. You are supposed to stand 100 meters away from the venue. You have seen the people. See that the venue is very clear. And we are urging the security to keep it that way until the voting and counting is all over. So we are very hopeful that the security will be very tight and there will be any mayhem.
Well, that's the regional communication director there. And like I said, this is a very important contest in the context that this is the home region of the vice president. Almost all the aspirants that I have been speaking with have been saying that they are going to win this election for the vice president. And that is the message that has been running across. The chairman has on several occasions says that he wants to win this particular election for the vice president to ensure that the party gets all the 6 constituencies in the next election. That was the agenda in 2020, but that didn't happen. The party in the region ended up having 4 seats out of the 6 seats. And because of the ambition or the aspiration of the vice president to lead the party, this is a very crucial election for regional executives here who are all saying that they are seeking re-election to ensure that they help the vice president who is coming from this region to win all the seats, the 6 constituencies, so that it can help the vice president in his political fortune. So yes, that is currently happening. Like I said, more people continue to come in, the security continue to be tighter. I can see on the way that there's a heavy scrutiny as well as heavy presence of security personnel. You will have to show your accreditation. You will have to show why you should be allowed to take part in this process. And so, yes, the process has begun here in the Northeast Regional Capital, Nalergo.
All right, Eliasu, thank you for joining us from the Northeast region. Let's also bring in Isaac and Nonya, who joins the conversation. Isaac, a very good morning to you.
Yes. So, I just want to finish with my
do we have Isaac joining the conversation? All right. So we'll also connect with Isaac Nonya, who will be bringing his report as well on the dynamics where he finds himself. Can you hear me now? All right, we appear to have a bit of an issue with that, but we're targeting a number of regions and we'll be bringing you the scoop on that. Northeast, I saw Ivy Setoji a while earlier. We'll be connecting from there as well. We have, we've heard from Richard Kwejunyako in the Central region. Isaac, if you can hear me now, so what is the latest that you can report?
The latest is that all 173 delegates are in. Many of them are currently at the venue. And then about 20.
So where specifically are you? Where specifically are you?
I'm right here at the Savannah Regional Police Headquarters to see if the police are also ready for today's exercise. I will speak, 2 trucks have been deployed to the venue to monitor the exercise. About 21 delegates, 21 candidates are parading for 10 positions. The second vice is going unopposed, while all the other 10 positions are being contested. Four of the positions that are clearly contested are the chairmanship, secretary, regional organizer, and a women organizer. All these positions, all the incumbents are going again. And one interesting thing is the regional chairmanship. The incumbent man who was able to marshal 3 seats, is being firstly contested by another notable figure, one Azuma, a businessman. I think the key contest has to do with the 2 of them, but you can't also forget about the regional secretaryship. Communication officer is going to his boss, Wam Saharuna, and that is being seen as it has placed the incumbent as let's say as an underdogs, because the regional secretary position they perceive it to be like one that should be very vocal and very current to issues. But some of the delegates are saying that no, that the man has no expectation, and for that matter, they should give it to the communication officer who has been a communicator and can do that better job. The woman organizer, for her case, one Safia, she's clearly contested by 2 other women, and where they're saying that because it's going to be for the second time that she's going, it's likely that she's going to lose to either of the 2 that are contesting her. But by and by, the polls for now, according to the executives, are going to be peaceful, and all arrangements are being made for them to ensure that that peaceful wish comes to pass.
You spoke about the chairmanship position in the Savannah region, reminiscent of what we are seeing in the Ashanti region, where Chairman Wontumi is being, contested fiercely by others. But what are some of the issues that the people are hinging a maintenance of the current chairman or a removal on? What are some of the issues in the Savannah region's MPP that they are looking at, that the delegates are considering in terms of where they will vote?
The delegates are talking about maintaining the force that brought the 3 seats, and also looking at unity. On the part of maintaining the force, I think the incumbent regional chairman has the advantage. But when you're talking about unity, even within the current executives, they think that the chairman has not done well, and they need a figure that can bring unity. It can bring all the parties together to move forward and then either maintain or add more seats to the 3 that have already gotten. Because Savannah region, according to them, is an orphan constituency to that of the New Patriotic Party, and they need unity. So the delegates are divided in the sense that those who want the force to be maintained, for the 3 seats to be maintained or more added, are talking about the incumbent man to be retained, while the rest others are also saying that no, the current one has not been able to ensure unity among the rank and file of the party, especially the executives. We know there's a bad blood, according to them, between him and his deputy, the first and second vice, and then the regional secretary, the outgoing one. But it happened that most of the delegates who think that the force should be maintained think that they need to become the strength of the Savannah region by getting 4 and giving 3 to the NDC, which is seen as the dominant party in Savannah region.
Well, thank you, Isaac, for connecting with us, bringing us the scoop. Let's also go to Martina Bugri. Let's go to Martina Bugri in the northern region. Martina, very good morning.
Good morning.
Great to connect with you. It's been a while. What can you report from the northern region in terms of the dynamics there? Today is D-Day.
Yes, we are at the Aliu Muhammad Sports Stadium where the elections will take place, and the delegates and aspirants are yet to arrive. The place seems very empty. But we are told that once they are settled, they are giving us up to 10 o'clock, that once they are settled, they would begin. Now, let's go through. We have 382 delegates who are expected to vote today, and the breakdown is 306 constituency executives, regional executive, we have 17, Council of Elders 10, Council of Patrons 10, founding members 4, 9 MPs, 26 TESCOM members, and together they make 382. We are told that it's strictly by invitation or according to accreditation. If you don't have accreditation, you would not be allowed into the venue. And so we are told that an aspirant is supposed to come in with 2 agents and 3 supporters. The ET is allowed, accredited media houses are allowed, the MPs are allowed, and special guests of honor who will be given accreditation. Except these people, any other person will not be allowed into the election venue. And as we speak, from the about 200 meters to the venue, there are barricades. You need to go through strict security, and then you are allowed to come into the venue. And so we have about 3-4 checkpoints to be able to have access into the venue. Before you get into the hall, you also have 2 places you will need to be checked before you are allowed. Now we are told that they are beefing up security to ensure that we have a successful election without hitches. I must say that the main contention is the chairmanship position, where we have 2 people, the incumbent Mohamed Samba and then Alaji Ahmad Inusa. They are the 2 key people are looking at. It looks like the other contestants are not really being noticed. Their attention has been on the chairmanship position, and that has run through the campaign up till now that we start. When you come to the venue, the place is littered with posters and paraphernalia of the party. It's all set. We have the Northern Regional Crime Officer here, and he's going to help us understand why they have beefed up security so much at the venue. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And we want to find out why this heavy security presence today.
The current security that we have or we are experiencing now is to ensure the safety of each and every one. You remember the issue of terror alerts. We have to ensure that we have adequate security for everybody, scan persons that are seen to be carrying packages or bags, and also to ensure that people will not come in to come and cause problems or disturb the smooth running of the elections. So our main priority borders on the issues of terror alerts and ensuring that we are all safe within the stadium here.
Now, we have seen that right from the beginning of the entrance, you would have to go through several checks. And at the final point, you go through body checks. Now, how long will this go on? Because once people enter and the show begins, everybody goes to sleep. How will this go through?
It's going to continue as long as we remain here until the elections are conducted and concluded, and we all are sure that everybody is safe, and at the close of the day, we walk home. So when we are dispersed or when we leave here, that's the end of our job. Then we all go home.
Will it be only the police that will be available, or we have the military joining and we have some other standby officers somewhere?
Or we are doing it in conjunction with the sister security agencies. But for now, we have the police on the front line, and it is our mandate, our job to be doing that. We hope that we will not be overwhelmed in case of any event or eventuality. We'll call in those on the reserve or on standby. We still have more personnel available who are standing by for us.
Before today, they have had press conferences accusing the security of taking sides and joining some group to fight opposition members. What do you have to say to this allegation?
Of course, it's the police that is mandated to carry out these activities. If they say using security, I don't even know who is using the security. We have been running elections, national elections and all this for a while. And it's the police that has been ensuring security for everybody. So I don't see how someone will go and say something somewhere to affect the conduct of security at our place here. So the security is in charge. Of course, it's the police. Are we going to say that because of that, people should carry personal security? Well, what's our use here? That is even the reason why we are ensuring stringent security checks at this place.
Thank you very much. You heard the Northern Regional Crime Officer and Superintendent Baba Ananga.
All right. Thank you for connecting, Martina Buguri, bringing us the details from the northern region, and we await the action there. But let's reconnect with Maxwell Kudeko on phone. Initially, the Zoom connection was not that good. Maxwell, so the eastern region, crucial to the MPP's success year on year when it comes to the electoral cycle. What are the dynamics now that we should be looking at? And especially when it comes to the leadership, the chairperson, in fact, the general secretaryship position. How is that panning out together with the chairmanship position in the eastern region?
Well, as I indicated earlier, there is a wide perception, especially with regards to the chairmanship position, that the chairmanship contest is a contest between the presidency on one side and the powers that be in the eastern region, that is Mr. Brian Champon, in a sense that the regional secretary now who is contesting for the chairmanship is perceived to be being sponsored or being pushed by Mr. Brian Champon. And then also that is Mr. Jeff Koneduado. He is perceived to be being sponsored or being spearheaded. His campaign is being spearheaded by Mr. Brian Champon. And his major contender, Mr. Kwadwo Boateng Ajiman, who is the new Gabin North Constituency chairman, he is also perceived to be being sponsored or being pushed by the presidency. And this message has been moving around the delegates in the last week or two. So everybody is trying to prove that they have the numbers, they have the powers.
So people, they are basically flexing muscles, right?
Exactly. Whether Mr. Brian Champon is able to overpower the powers that be from the presidency, or the presidency will still maintain this relevance in the region. So it's been a very tight campaign. Mr. Jeff Konedu, his major campaign has been that he has been in the region, he's worked in the region, he is connected most with the party people in the last elections. He has worked closely with the constituency people. So he stands a better position to chair the region. However, his major contender, Mr. Kwadwo Boateng Ajiman, also says that the position of the regional chairmanship is that of a coordination role. And in order to perform very well as a regional executive or regional chairman, you need to gather that kind of experience from the constituency. He has been a 4-term constituency chairman and has worked tirelessly to increase the vote of the New Gabin North constituency. He said among other things that the current leadership of the MPP in the region cannot beat their chest that indeed they are so content with the performance of the party in the last election. He accused the current leadership for supervising the defeat of the party in two major constituencies, in a sense that the Ayensuano constituency, the MPP lost the seat to the NDC. Meanwhile, the Ayensuano constituency is a traditional seat, so to say, for the MPP. And then also, Akwatia constituency went to the NDC in the last election under the supervision of the current regional executive. So, Mr. Jeff Konedu cannot pride himself in any achievements under this current administration. So Mr. Kwadwo Boateng has been campaigning on that scope, that but for his leadership, the MPP wouldn't have secured the Upper West Achim seat. He claimed that he was coordinating the internal relations in that constituency, and he contributed into the victory. So that has been the major campaign. But a lot of people, Mr. Kojo Boateng joined the race just about 2 weeks ago. However, Mr. Jekwenedu started the campaign since last year. So until recently, a lot of people were moving with Mr. Jeff Konedu. It appears the dynamics is changing, because if you talk to people who either two were very close or who were pushing the agenda of Mr. Jeff Konedu, they seem to be backing down a bit. So nobody can beat his chest and say that for the regional chairmanship election, it is going to be for A or B. It's going to be a very crucial election, though. Anything at all can happen. The story is changing small. So that is the lookout for position in the Eastern region. Presently, the first vice chairman position is being contested. There's only one person. Ideally, we are told that 29 people had to contest for 10 positions in the Eastern region. However, out of the 29, 26 passed through the vetting. However, when the party was printing the ballot papers, 2 other people withdrew from the contest. So now we have 21 aspirants contesting for 10 positions in the regional election. The first vice chairman position is being contested unopposed by Mr. Richard Korantin Chum. He is popularly known as Chumberima. The second vice chairman position is contested by Mr. Frank Appiah. He is a constituency chairman at a Kropon constituency. Mr. Paul Amenin is also in the second vice chairmanship race. And Mr. Otin Ebi, Michael Otin Ebi, he is also a former chairman of the New Gabon South constituency. In the last regional election, he contested for the first vice chairmanship position against the current first vice chairman, Alhaji Umar Bodinga, but he lost narrowly to Alhaji Umar Bodinga. So he has staged a comeback for the second chairman position. He is also campaigning based on the same experiences Mr. Kojo Ajima Boateng is also campaigning. He is also saying that to be on a regional executive platform, you should be able to gather that kind of experience, because election is not conducted at the regional level. It is conducted at the polling station level in the constituency. So we believe that people with that expertise need to serve on the regional elections, regional executive platforms. The secretaryship contest is between Mr. Anthony Osei Eje. He's a former research officer and director of elections for the party in the Eastern region. He's come back to contest as a regional secretary. He's being contested by Mr. Bokman Ekufu, who he is a lecturer at the Kofodia Technical University here in Kofodia. Assistant secretaryship position is being contested by a few main people. Nana Yapapen, he is the incumbent assistant secretary, is being contested by Felix Osafu Mafu and Ofuri Ata. The 2 guys are also contesting. The regional organizer involves 3 keen aspirants. Jerry Osepoku is the current youth organizer. He's moved ahead to contest for the regional organizer position. He's having a contest. He's being contested fearlessly by Mr. Opoko Champion George. He is also a constituency organizer in the Frontier Kwa North constituency, and Ahmed Yusuf Yona. The women organizer election is between Madame Fatih Vundoli. He's a current women organizer. He's been contested by Mercy Ano Dako. I'm told she's an educationist. She's also contesting the current women organizer. And Asara is contested, is going unopposed. Hussein Mohammed Fadilu. The treasurer Ben Kumi Labis is also going unopposed. In the regional youth organizer position is being contested by Ademu Musa, Aaron Donko, and Wuto Isaac Asante. So these are the positions for grab. But the major issue is that there are one constituency in the region that they don't have the opportunity to participate in tomorrow's election. That is the Kropon constituency. There are some issues concerning some eligibility and a lot of issues in that constituency. So the constituency, they have the opportunity to go for a constituency congress to elect constituency executive. So I'm told that there's also an injunction on that constituency. So a Kropon will not have a representation in this election. That is tomorrow. There are 2 other constituencies, that is Nkoko constituency and the Suhum constituency.
Right, Max. So we're grateful for the details. Very in-depth, reporting there on the situation in the eastern region, and we'll keep our eyeballs on that because it's a very important region as far as the MPP is concerned. One of their major, strongholds, if you like. Let's get to Isaac Nonya. Or should I say, let me go to Ivy Setoji in the Volta region. Ivy, a very good morning to you. Now, in the Volta region, what can you report as far as the dynamics today and in the coming days are concerned? What are the reports you're getting?
It's going to be a very interesting day. Due to the venue of the election, initially they wanted to send it to the south, that is Jelukope in the Kesa municipality. But yesterday we had a message that it was going to be held in the regional capital because of some issues between the committee and the people involved. So as we speak, for the venue, we are yet to know specifically where they are going. It's going to be held in Ho, but the election is going to be held in Ho. For the regional chairmanship, the incumbent is still going. That is Mr. McAfee Kofi Wanya, who said he needs another 4 terms to do all the things he promised. He built the regional office according to the party members. So it's also the slot is being contested by Pastor Johnson Kwame Abulet. That's the immediate former deputy regional minister. And then the secretary for the party, Joseph Komenya, is now contesting for the chairman position. So two people are contesting the incumbent, Makasu Kofi Wanya. And then when we go for the secretary aspirant, we have the communications director, Pope Yaoyobu, contesting for the secretary position. Dr. Prince Sedoke Amusu also contested. That's the former Akachi of DCE. A former communications director is also contesting the same position. He's contested 3 times already and lost. That's Enoch Amegloso and one Mr. Kwesi Akia Pente with the national security. The treasurer, we have 3 people contesting for women organizer. We have the incumbent going, and we also have a former deputy women organizer, Hannah Shade, also contesting, who is also very sure of winning this time around. And a new face, Mabel Amegleto. So it's going to be very interesting tomorrow, trust me, because of the dynamics, because of the issues surrounding the elections. We understand Curtis South will have their elections after this because there was an injunction on their election some time ago.
Okay, so that is the latest from the Volta region as well. Ivy, thank you for bringing us the scoop. Let's also engage now someone central to all these elections, the Director of Elections and Research with the MPP, Evans Nimako. Mr. Nimako, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, my brother.
It's a pleasure. It's been a while. I hope you're keeping well.
His grace has been sufficient for me. I hope you are doing well too.
By God's grace, yes, the same grace. The MPP goes to the polls at the regional level, and we've heard of so many different dynamics from the Ashanti region, where Chairman Wontumi, who promised to deliver all 47 constituencies, has failed to do so, and to have that, party office, regional party office, that has also not materialized. He's being taken on. I know there are some elections happening today, not the Ashanti region, till Sunday, but I want to start from there. When you look at the situation in the Ashanti region currently, and the fact that Wontumi went unopposed, at a point, but now he's receiving such stiff opposition, what do you think it bodes for the fortunes of the MPP?
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Once again, let me greet your listeners.
This is Benjamin Akakpo, actually, that you're interacting.
Ben. Oh, Ben. How are you doing?
I am well.
I'll say to myself, Konyolo.
All right. No, I know you don't have the benefit of watching, so it's all right. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. Going to the campaign, I mean, once there are other interested contestants, I would want to do an assessment of the previous elections in 2028 and how it has all turned out. But what I'm going to say is that the party is set. The elections committee has put together all the necessary arrangements to ensure smooth conduct of the regional annual delegate conference. We are in touch with the Ghana Police Service for provision of security arrangements. We are in touch with the Electoral Commission as the law requires for them to supervise the conduct of the elections. So, I mean, once it is the regional annual delegate conference, there are other usual rituals that are performed by conference. So those dates will be done, and then when time is due for the conduct of the elections, the elections committee chairperson will have the mandate to hand over the process to the Electoral Commission to conduct the election. It is hoped that at the end of this exercise, we are going to have a set of executives at the regional level to steer the affairs of the party and champion the campaign and arrangement and all processes and all strategies put together to ensure the party's victory comes 2024.
How about in the central region? What is your viewing there? Because there too, an injunction is impeding the process, a Kumfi constituency coming to the fore there. How is that going to affect the rollout of the regional elections as planned, the roadmap?
Well, per our constitutional provisions, the regional conference or all conferences, constituency level, regional and national, are convened and chaired by the respective chairpersons. I've been notified that the regional chairman has been officially served with the processes, and therefore, upon advice from his lawyer, has indicated his unwillingness to convene a conference. So in view of that, it will be difficult to have Central Regional Delegate Conference coming on today. And I'm also informed, and that's also the case, we at the national headquarters have not been served with any processes. But be as it may, once the regional chairman has been officially served, we will comply with the court processes and we will take the necessary steps to ensure that the issue with a Kumfi, which has resulted in this, gets resolved. Already, it has come before the Adapa committee. Work has been done on it. It is expected that when the actions are implemented, there will be amicable peace and there will be a way out for us to move on.
Let's turn next to the Eastern region. Crucial for you when we look at the number of votes you've been getting. I mean, apart from the Ashanti region, the Eastern region is big for the MPP. Some fierce contests there as well, from what we're being told. The chairmanship position, general secretaryship, and more. Is this going to deepen the democratic practice at the regional level or going to create a rift? Because it appears to be pretty stiff opposition.
Well, I mean, contestation always comes with its own issues. And one thing the New Patriotic Party strive on is competition. And so we are open at all levels. The party do not impose candidates. What we do is to allow for a free role of the election process. And so, as has been done, it is expected that the elections committee will conduct its processes in accordance with the directives given, as in the rules and regulations, as well as in the party's constitution.
And so generally, looking at, I mean, the roadmap we have for the elections, Ashanti region on Sunday at the stadium, and all the other dynamics we're going to be looking forward to in the next few days. What are your expectations, especially considering that at the constituency level, we've seen patches of concerns here in the Greater Accra region, the Ashanti region, Eastern, Western, practically across the country, up north as well. What is going to be different this time? What is the plan to prevent similar happenings?
Well, what the party has done is to allow for the process to run freely, to run transparently, and the committee put together by the National Executive Committee is to ensure that we have a processes that will ensure free and fair conduct of the elections, and so we are getting that done. There are a few issues that came up, as you've mentioned, but internal elections, people will definitely have interest, but at the end of the day, we make sure that the rules and regulations are really complied with by all stakeholders. And so that's exactly what we've been doing.
Begging your indulgence, craving your indulgence, I just want your take on this as we wrap and, take the thoughts of our viewers. In the Greater Accra region, of course, that also yet to come up, but there is the Dome Kwabenya situation, and we've been hearing from Sarah Adwoa-Safo in recent times. Is she going to get the nod in Dome Kwabenya? I mean, looking at the dynamics there, what is the party looking forward to as far as that constituency is concerned? Because it's crucial to the fortunes of the party in the Greater Accra region.
I've mentioned to you that as a party, we do not impose candidates on any set of constituency or any set of group. But where we are now is really the conduct of regional elections. We are done with the polling stations. We are done with our electoral area. We are done with constituencies. So we're doing our regional elections. When we are done, the party will be set to conduct the national officers' elections at the National Delegate Conference. And then leadership will come with the timelines for parliamentary and presidential candidate election. So this is, I don't think this is the time for discussions for parliamentary primary.
Right. It's early days yet. I only brought it up because it is indeed a thorny matter. Of course, the Privileges Committee brought into the picture, and interestingly, Sarah Adwoa-Safo interacting with us yesterday. But I understand your point, and it's a fair point to make. We're grateful for your time, Evans.
I'm grateful for having me.
Right. Evans Nemako, Director of Elections and Research with the NPP. But at this juncture, let's quickly get into some of what you've been sharing with us on social media and beyond. So we posed that question. There have been calls for the president to sack Adwoa-Safo as the gender minister. So that is moving away from Parliament and focusing on her ministerial role. What is your take on this? Share your thoughts with us on the AM show. We'll get some of the comments on social media, but we'll also activate the phone lines so you can call in and share your thoughts. The number to call 0302-211-691 extension 2. Call that number. Let's hear from you. 0302-211-691 extension 2. Call that number and let us hear from you. So we'll be getting into some of the answers coming through. And, okay, so let's start from here. Slow boat. Okay, you say Akufo-Addo has no tenacity to sack Adwoa-Safo. He is, I can't read the rest of it. Let's be fair in the points we make. This one says, okay, Ghani's tours. I am waiting to see whether the people of her constituency will still vote for her again as MP. Ghana and Kasa. All right, but that is your thinking. The people in her constituency may decide to vote. That is up to them. Benjamin Amankwa says, my thought is that we should sack the president himself. Well, there are ways of doing that. You have to wait for the appropriate time to arrive, and if you feel he's not delivered, like we've done in the past, you vote him out. Queen Blessing says, hey, but Ghana, so someone can abandon her job over a year and still be getting her salary? There is God, oh, okay, that is your thinking. Akedim Carlos says, okay, a full ministry has been abandoned for a year now or more, and she feels her child is more important than all the 30.8 million population or even the constituents that voted for her. Okay, so I get your point. When you say 31 million thereabouts, you're talking about her role as minister. But as a parliamentarian, of course, that's a smaller crowd. Ironically, she draws her huge, let's get the details of that, salaries every month from the Ghanaian taxpayer. My little worry is that if Adwoa Safo were to be in Kolebu or CAF or UGMC with a child, even 3 years off duty would not be enough. But to deliberately ignore the job given you by the constituents and ministry, yet to have your salary paid right, beats my imagination. All right. So we have your thoughts coming through. I believe we shall have a few calls shortly. But so I don't really, Jerome says, I don't really talk about politics. But on this one, I don't think what she said yesterday was the best statement to put across. It only looks as though one were fighting for her family with the strength of the people. All right, so the phone lines 0302 211 691 extension 2. 0302 211 691 extension 2. I believe we have a caller on the line. Hello, where are you calling from?
Yeah, good morning. This is Abenda calling from Kumasi.
Abenda from Kumasi, right.
Yeah.
What are your quick thoughts for us on these matters?
Yeah, I think that she can't just be dismissed outrightly like that, but she must go through the various processes to ascertain whether she is right or not. But what I also say is that Parliament should put things in place so that the legal instruments that they are operating with, they can go by it so that it should not be like they wait for some time and then complaints will be coming. So I think that she needs to have a fair hearing. So she cannot just be dismissed like that. Thank you.
All right. So fair hearing, fair deal. I've been down in Kumasi. Let's do Isa Baba and Tamale. Isa, good morning.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Great. What are your thoughts on the discussion we're having?
Yes, my thoughts are that she has to do the needful.
Which is what?
Because she's sworn an oath to protect and defend the governor of Ghana. And I think this is not what she's supposed to do. I think if in relation to the family, all the servants in Ghana, everyone has a family. And it doesn't have to come in line with your duty with Mother Ghana. And I think
so what would you suggest? Because
we're told to do the national pledge, where you pledge that you want to defend the good name of Ghana. Yeah, you want to be faithful and loyal to Mother Ghana. And I think this is not the faithfulness and loyalty to Mother Ghana.
All right,
so
thank
if
you.
There's no one in the family to take care of her children, then and she has to take care of them herself, then she has to do the needful and resign so that we can get somebody to fit into the position and do what is good for Mother Ghana. Because time is not on our side.
All right. Isa Baba, thank you for sharing your thoughts. Interesting dynamics. Yao from Akachi is also on the line. Hello, Yao.
Good morning.
Good morning, Yao. Your thoughts?
Yeah. I'm grateful, JoyNews, you have been able to speak with the MP. And what I would like you to do again is investigate if she still takes her salary as a minister and at the same time being paid as an MP. And let's find out what the law says if you are out of the system for that well. If I am also a teacher, if I should be off for a week, you know the implications. So how can Ghanaians tax be used to be paying her as she is away for that long time? In fact, we are jokers in this country. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. But just so you know, for those who may be thinking she's drawing everything as Member of Parliament and drawing a full salary as Minister, there are dynamics. So for Members of Parliament who double as ministers, there's a bit of a top-up, but it doesn't mean they're getting what an MP would get, all of that, and what a minister would get in addition. That's not the way it is. You can call 0302 211 691 extension 2. 0302 211 691 extension 2. We have another caller from Akachi. I have not got your name. Who's on the line? Hello, good morning. All right, I think we've lost that caller. Let me quickly look at some more of your messages, and we'll get right back to you. 0302211691, extension 2. Andam David says, I agree with the president, even it has been kept long. Okay, we'll get back to the messages shortly. We have Hamza. Hello, Hamza. Hamza, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I want to share my thoughts on this.
Sure. Where are you calling from? Before you go on. Ashaiman. All right, go ahead, Hamza.
Sometimes I feel bad when there's a lady in position and you want to talk about her. I mean, myself, I want to talk about her. But then this whole issue has been an issue of, you are not serving yourself, or maybe say you ask permission from the president. You are serving the constituency.
Right.
Because you need to represent them in the parliament. On the day of the budget approval, when there was election of budget approval, there was an allegation that someone impersonated her and that the person came to vote. Then later she was there. Now she has left again. The honorable thing for her to do is to come clarify those allegations and then resign. Then go back to take care of your children. No one will stop you from doing that. But then you are serving people in Ghana. You are serving about something people in your constituency. So the honorable thing for her to do is just to come and tender resignation. Go back and take care of your family. This wouldn't have ended this year, we discussing it from the TV stations to other radio stations and those things. So the honorable thing for her to do is just come back, tender your resignation, go back.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, too. Thank you for calling. We'll pick our last caller, John from Cape Coast. Do I have it right? Is it John?
Yeah, this is John Kufo calling from Cape Coast.
All right. What are your quick thoughts, John?
Yeah, my quick thought is, look at this, the government is playing with us. If the government want to tell us that Adwoa Safua is indeed an impediment as far as the Ghana is concerned, the first point of sacking her is from the Ministry of Gender. That is the first point. That one, we don't need any legal banter or anything. Just sack her. You have failed to do this thing, and you want to go embedding parliamentarians. Please, does it make sense? If you think Adwoa Safua is troubling your government, sack her from the position of gender minister. Nobody will ask you any questions. You can do that with ease. But you have failed to do that. But now you turn back and blame Parliament that he is an impediment in parliamentarians' work. Does it make sense? These people, in fact, they want to bring Ghana down. And that is why they are doing this. Why is the president afraid of Adwoa Safua? Why is he afraid of Adwoa Safua? That's a question for them to answer. Thank you.
All right, John from Cape Coast, our final caller. And that is ordinary Ghanaians. Those are ordinary Ghanaians sharing their thoughts. You can share yours with us on social media, and at least we'll know what you've been thinking. But as we wrap the show, water is life. It regulates your body temperature. It keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through strict purification processes to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect size for every occasion, 330 and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. Awake has also introduced special 19-liter jars for offices and homes. Now you just need to stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. So come on, grab your bottle of Awake water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchases, just call 0262 351 251. Well, let's talk money. Did you know that the income of a young entrepreneur from some selected businesses is exempt from tax for 5 years? Any young entrepreneur engaged in manufacturing, information and communications technology, agro-processing, energy production, waste processing, tourism and the creative arts, horticulture and medicinal plants does not need to pay any income tax on these activities for the first 5 years of operation. A young entrepreneur engaged in a business that enjoys an initial 5-year concession benefits from the following applicable rates for an additional 5 years. If you are in Accra and Tema, you enjoy 15%. Other regional capitals outside the 3 northern regions, 12.5%. If you are outside the other regional capitals, you enjoy 10%. And if you fall within the northern regional belt, you enjoy 5%. For further clarity and information, just reach out to your nearest GRA office. Ghana Revenue Authority, integrity, fairness, and service. Right before we go, a happy birthday in advance to Brian Forson of the High Academy. You are 6 years. Is that Eputuoja? Yeah, you are 6 years on Saturday. It's from Nicholas Forson, your father, and your family. Have a wonderful birthday and a wonderful day. On that note, we wrap on the AM show. It's always a pleasure coming your way. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Don't you forget, up next we have Joy News Desk. We'll be bringing you more details and Joy News today at noon. Have a fab Friday. Stay blessed.